We live in an age of constant noise. The rush of deadlines, the pressure of bills, the endless scroll of screens, and the heavy expectations we carry have created a life where silence feels almost impossible. Many people wake up already anxious, with the mind racing ahead to a dozen problems waiting outside the door. We tell ourselves that if we just work harder, earn more, or fix every detail, then peace will arrive. But peace keeps slipping away, always one step further, as if it was never meant to be caught. Beneath this restless cycle lies a deeper truth. The problem is not the world itself, but the way we cling to it, chase it, and fight it. The suffering of modern life is real, but so is the path that leads beyond it. This is where the wisdom of Buddhist teachings becomes more than philosophy. It becomes medicine for the tired heart, a timeless guidance of mindfulness, compassion, and letting go is not about escaping life, but about living it fully, without being crushed by its weight. Imagine being able to sit in the middle of chaos and still feel a steady flame within, a flame that no storm can extinguish. That possibility is real. It does not require perfection, wealth, or control. It requires only a shift of perspective, a willingness to see differently. In this journey, we will walk through 10 doors. Each door represents a struggle of our times: stress, urgency, restless thoughts, rigid expectations, the need to control, disconnection from the body, the inability to receive, the storm of emotions, the fear of change, and the burden of self-ownership. Each struggle is a mirror, reflecting the universal pain of being human. And each door, when opened with the key of Buddhist wisdom, reveals not despair, but release, not more burdens, but the lightness of freedom. The storytelling you are about to hear is not abstract. It is grounded in daily life traffic jams, broken relationships, sleepless nights, the small victories and silent battles we all know too well. These teachings are not meant to float above reality, but to touch the ground of your own experience. They are meant to meet you where you are, whether you are overwhelmed by stress, haunted by money worries, or caught in the tension of relationships. Through each part, you will hear not just words, but a path, a gentle voice that shows you another way to hold your suffering. This is not about adopting a new religion or memorizing ancient words. It is about tasting freedom directly. It is about feeling the calm that comes when you release the urge to control everything. It is about discovering the compassion that softens anger, the patience that soothes fear, the wisdom that turns pain into a teacher. If you allow it, each teaching can plant a seed in your heart. Slowly, those seeds grow into trees of resilience, clarity, and inner stillness. The promise of this journey is simple but profound. You do not have to be trapped in endless suffering. There is a way through. It is not about changing the entire world around you. It is about changing the way you meet it. One breath at a time, one thought observed instead of clung to, one act of kindness instead of fear. Step by step, you will learn that peace is not far away. It has always been here, waiting beneath the noise, waiting inside you. For as long as we can remember, modern life has been built on the promise that peace will come from the outside. We are told that if we get the perfect job, the right partner, the bigger house, the next achievement, then finally the restlessness will quiet down. Yet in reality, most people discover that the opposite happens. The more they chase, the more the heart aches. The more they accomplish, the more anxious the mind becomes. Instead of peace, there is pressure. Instead of silence, there is noise. And behind the noise, a deep fatigue that does not go away. This is the suffering of our time. A suffering hidden under the mask of success. Picture an ordinary morning in America. The alarm clock rings, and the first thought is not gratitude, but worry. Bills need to be paid, tasks need to be completed, relationships need to be fixed. Even before the day begins, the body tightens with stress. Coffee is gulped down, news is consumed, and social media scrolls flood the mind with comparisons. We are taught that this is normal, that everyone lives this way. But normal does not mean natural, and normal does not mean healthy. Deep down, the heart knows that this way of living is unsustainable. Yet we keep going, hoping that just around the corner, peace will arrive. But what if peace was never hiding in the future? What if it has always been here, waiting in the present moment, waiting inside you? This is the truth the Buddha pointed to thousands of years ago. True peace is not created by external circumstances. It is discovered by turning inward, by listening to what we have ignored for too long. The resonant whispers of inner stillness. Inner stillness is not silence in the sense of absence. It is not about locking yourself in a quiet room or escaping to a remote mountain. It is about discovering the quiet that exists even in the middle of traffic, even in the middle of conflict, even in the middle of pain. It is the space beneath your thoughts, the presence behind your feelings. You may have caught a glimpse of it before, perhaps during a walk in nature when the mind suddenly softened, perhaps when holding a child, when for a moment time seemed to stop, perhaps when sitting by the ocean, feeling small but safe. These are hints, reminders that beneath the storm there is always a calm center. The reason we suffer is because we forget this center. We become trapped in the endless commentary of the mind. Thoughts about the past, thoughts about the future, judgments about ourselves, worries about others. The mind races, and we believe every word it says. We mistake the noise for truth, the chatter for identity. And so we suffer, not because the world is unbearable, but because our relationship to it is clouded. The ancient wisdom of mindfulness teaches us that the first step toward freedom is not to destroy thoughts, not to run from them, but to see them for what they are. Fleeting sounds in the sky of the mind. Imagine sitting quietly, noticing your breath. At first, thoughts rush in. I should be working. I forgot to call my friend. I am not doing this right. But instead of chasing them, you simply watch. You see each thought rise and fall, like a wave on the ocean. In that moment, you realize that you are not the wave. You are the ocean itself. The wave appears, the wave disappears, but the ocean remains. This realization is not small. It is the beginning of liberation. It is the door to inner stillness. Modern culture tells us that stillness is laziness, that rest is weakness. We glorify busyness. We measure worth in productivity. We worship efficiency. Yet busyness has not brought peace, and productivity has not erased loneliness. We keep moving faster, and yet we feel more lost. The wisdom of Buddhism offers another perspective. Stillness is not withdrawal. It is strength. Rest is not laziness. It is clarity. When the mind is still, it sees more clearly. When the heart is calm, it loves more deeply. Think of a snow globe. When it is shaken, the pieces of snow swirl around wildly, making everything blurry. But when the globe is placed down, the snow settles, and suddenly the scene inside becomes clear. Our minds are just like that. We shake them all day long with constant stimulation, constant worry, constant striving. No wonder we cannot see clearly. The practice of inner stillness is simply the act of putting the globe down. The snow settles on its own. Clarity arises naturally. This is not a call to abandon life. You still have responsibilities, families, careers, dreams. The invitation is not to run away, but to live differently. To bring stillness into action, silence into speech, peace into conflict. Even while working, you can pause for one conscious breath. Even in conversation, you can listen not just to the words, but to the silence between them. Even in difficulty, you can remember that the storm is temporary, but the sky is eternal. Consider the story of a man who worked tirelessly, chasing promotions, wealth, and recognition. He thought that each new achievement would bring satisfaction. Yet every time he arrived, the peace lasted only a moment before the craving for more returned. Exhausted, he turned to meditation. At first, he resisted the stillness. It felt useless, unproductive. But slowly, he began to notice something he had never seen. The chatter in his mind was not reality. It was just noise. Beneath it, there was a space untouched by success or failure. That space became his refuge. Over time, he discovered that peace was not something to chase, but something to uncover. This teaching is not reserved for monks or hermits. It is for everyone, for mothers raising children, for students drowning in exams, for workers navigating pressure, for elders facing loneliness. Stillness is universal because suffering is universal. The Buddha did not offer a philosophy to admire, but a medicine to take. And the medicine begins with listening. Listening not to the shouts of craving, not to the screams of fear, but to the quiet voice within that says, "You are enough. You are already whole. You can rest." To embrace this path, you do not need to believe in anything mystical. You do not need to adopt rituals or memorize scriptures. All you need is the courage to pause, to breathe, to notice. One conscious breath is enough to begin. One moment of presence can open the door. With practice, these moments grow, weaving stillness into the fabric of your days. Over time, the anxious mornings soften, the racing thoughts lose power, the heavy heart becomes lighter. As you listen to these words, let them sink not just into your mind, but into your body. Feel your shoulders relax. Notice the rhythm of your breath. Sense the weight of the chair supporting you. These small acts of awareness are not distractions from life. They are life itself. They are the doorway to peace, the pathway to freedom. And yet, as we begin to taste this stillness, another challenge arises. The world around us continues to shout. Emails keep arriving. Phones keep buzzing. Demands keep pressing. The illusion of urgency knocks at the door, whispering that you cannot rest, that you must hurry, that if you pause, you will fall behind. This illusion is powerful, and it has shaped the culture of our time. To understand it, we must go deeper. We must unmask the illusion of urgency itself. The illusion of urgency is one of the most persuasive forces in modern life. It whispers constantly in our ears, telling us that everything must be done now, that every message requires an instant reply, that every opportunity will vanish if not seized immediately. This voice has become so familiar that we no longer question it. We assume it speaks the truth. Yet if we pause and observe, we discover that most of this urgency is nothing more than habit, a reflex of the mind, a craving disguised as necessity. Think of the way people check their phones dozens of times each hour. Notifications light up, and the heart leaps as if the world depends on this very moment. But rarely is it an emergency. More often, it is a trivial update, a passing distraction. Still, the body reacts as if survival is at stake. The pulse quickens, the breath shortens, the mind tightens. This is not peace. This is captivity. And the bars of this prison are made not of steel, but of unquestioned urgency. Buddhist wisdom has a word for this craving: tena. It is the thirst that drives us to grasp, to cling, to chase. It is the restless pull that says, I must have this, I must fix that, I must reach there. But tanha is never satisfied. Like a fire fed by fuel, it grows with each offering. The more we obey its urgency, the louder it screams. No matter how fast we run, it runs faster. No matter how much we do, it demands more. And so we burn out, not because life is impossible, but because we keep believing this illusion. The practice of mindfulness offers a radical alternative. Instead of rushing, we pause. Instead of reacting, we breathe. Instead of obeying urgency, we question it. When the voice says, "This must be done now," we ask, "Is it true?" Often, the answer is no. The world will not collapse if we wait 5 minutes or 5 hours or even a day. The urgent feeling is not reality. It is just a wave of the mind. When we learn to see this, the wave loses its power. We are no longer dragged by it. We become steady, like a mountain watching the clouds pass. Consider the story of a young woman named Claire. She worked in a high-pressure job, always rushing, always anxious. Her phone buzzed with emails. Her calendar overflowed. Her nights were sleepless. One day, exhausted, she attended a mindfulness retreat. The teacher guided her to take one slow breath before answering her phone, one conscious pause before opening her computer. At first, it felt impossible. The urgency screamed louder than ever. But with practice, she began to notice something extraordinary. Most of the urgency was false. The emails could wait. The phone calls could wait. The world did not collapse when she paused. Instead, her world expanded. She felt space where there had been none. She felt freedom where there had been chains. This is the heart of the teaching. Freedom is not the absence of responsibility, but the presence of awareness. When we stop being slaves to urgency, we begin to live deliberately. We choose our actions instead of being driven by them. We work not from panic, but from clarity. We love not from fear, but from presence. This is the power of pausing, the wisdom of slowing down. It may seem countercultural in a society that glorifies speed. But what has speed given us except stress, disconnection, and exhaustion? Slowness does not mean failure. It means depth. It means giving your full presence to the moment instead of scattering it across 1,000 worries. Imagine eating a meal slowly, tasting every bite. Imagine listening to a friend without rushing to respond. Imagine walking outside and noticing the colors of the sky. These small acts of slowness are not wasted time. They are life itself. And yet the mind resists. It says, if I slow down, I will fall behind. But behind what? Behind whom? The race is an illusion. There is no finish line where the prize is everlasting peace. There is only this moment and how you live it. The Buddha taught that craving is endless, but freedom is possible. To taste freedom, we must dare to step out of the race, even for a breath. Think of urgency like a fire alarm that goes off constantly, even when there is no fire. At first, you run each time, panicked and breathless. But eventually, you begin to question it. You realize the alarm is faulty. You learn to listen with discernment. When there is truly a fire, you respond. But when it is just noise, you stay calm. The same is true with urgency. Not every alarm deserves a reaction. Some can be met with stillness, some with patience, some with a gentle smile. The practice becomes a way of living. Each time you feel the pull of urgency, you return to your breath. Each time anxiety surges, you place your hand on your heart and whisper, "It's okay. I do not need to rush." Slowly, the body learns to relax. The mind learns to trust. The heart learns to rest. And in that resting, you discover a strength far greater than rushing ever gave you. This does not mean neglecting real responsibilities. It means meeting them with wisdom. A parent still feeds the child, but with presence instead of panic. A worker still meets deadlines, but with clarity instead of chaos. A student still studies, but with focus instead of frenzy. Urgency is replaced by intention. Pressure is replaced by presence. In this way, life is not abandoned. It is transformed. Over time, this practice of slowing down reveals something profound. Beneath the surface urgency, there is a deeper anxiety, the fear of not being enough. We rush because we are afraid to stop. We chase because we are afraid to rest. We keep moving because stillness might show us our doubts, our insecurities, our hidden pain. But when we dare to face stillness, we discover that these fears are just more clouds in the sky of the mind. They pass, they dissolve. They cannot harm the vastness of who we are, so we bow to the moment. We release the need to control it, to fix it, to rush through it. We honor it as it is, imperfect and fleeting. Bowing is not weakness. It is reverence. It is the gesture of a heart that no longer demands, but receives. In this bow, urgency loses its grip and stillness shines through. The Buddha once said that the mind, when calm, sees truth clearly. This is not just philosophy. It is a lived experience, available to anyone willing to pause. Even one conscious breath can show you the way. And the more you breathe, the more you see. Peace is not in the future. It is here, in the present. It has always been here. As we close this first part of the journey, reflect on what you have heard. The resonant whispers of inner stillness call you home. The illusion of urgency no longer holds you captive. You are beginning to see that life is not about chasing peace, but uncovering it. This uncovering is not dramatic, not loud. It is gentle, subtle, steady. And as you walk further, you will discover that thoughts themselves, those constant voices, are not the enemy, but the teachers. They are fleeting clouds in the sky of mind, reminding you of the vastness beyond. And so, with a calm breath and an open heart, let us step into the next chapter, where we learn to meet our thoughts not as masters, but as passing guests. Thoughts are the constant background of human life. From the moment we wake to the moment we fall asleep, thoughts rise and fall like endless waves. What should I eat for breakfast? What if my boss is unhappy? Why did I say that yesterday? What will happen tomorrow? The stream never stops. Most people believe this stream is who they are. I think, therefore I am, the culture says. But what if that is not true? What if thoughts are not your identity, but fleeting clouds in the vast sky of your mind? Imagine a clear blue sky stretching across the horizon. Now imagine white clouds drifting through it. Some are light and wispy, some are heavy and dark, some bring rain, others pass quickly. The sky does not chase them, and it does not cling to them. It does not worry when they appear, and it does not rejoice when they leave. It simply remains vast and open. In the same way, your mind is not the thoughts that pass through it. Your mind is the sky itself, limitless, steady, untouched. The reason so many people suffer is not because of the thoughts themselves, but because of the way they cling to them. A thought arises, I am a failure. I will never succeed. No one loves me. And instead of seeing it as a passing cloud, they grasp it as if it were carved in stone. They repeat it, believe it, replay it until it becomes part of their identity. Yet the truth is simple. No thought, no matter how convincing, is permanent. Thoughts come and go, but the sky remains. The Buddha taught that suffering arises from attachment. This applies not only to possessions and relationships, but also to thoughts. When you cling to thoughts, you suffer. When you observe them without attachment, you are free. This is the subtle discipline of non-attachment, not rejecting thoughts, not forcing them away, but watching them with gentle awareness. Consider the example of driving a car on a busy highway. Cars zoom by in every lane. Some are fast, some are slow, some cut across suddenly. If you tried to chase every car, you would crash. If you tried to stop every car, you would lose your mind. The wise way is to stay in your own lane, aware of the flow, but not controlled by it. Thoughts are like cars on the highway of your mind. You do not need to chase them or block them. You simply notice them as they pass. This practice is powerful because it changes the relationship you have with your inner voice. Most people believe the mind is like a courtroom, and every thought is a judge delivering a final verdict. But in truth, the mind is more like a radio station, broadcasting endless programs, most of them repetitive, many of them unhelpful. When you see this, you stop treating every broadcast as truth. You learn to listen selectively. You can even smile at the absurdity of some thoughts. "There it goes again," you say gently, like watching a child play with toys. One woman, for example, struggled for years with thoughts of self-doubt. Every morning, her mind whispered, "You are not good enough." For a long time, she believed it. She tried to silence the voice, but it only grew louder. Finally, through mindfulness practice, she learned to sit quietly and observe. When the thought appeared, she labeled it simply thinking. She did not argue, and she did not obey. Over time, the thought lost its power. It still appeared, but she no longer gave it authority. She began to live from the sky of her mind, not the clouds. This does not mean ignoring important insights. Thoughts can be useful, like road signs on the path of life. They remind us of tasks, warn us of dangers, help us plan. The key is to recognize their impermanence. Just because a thought appears does not mean it defines you. Just because it feels urgent does not mean it is true. Wisdom lies in discernment, learning to see thoughts clearly without drowning in them. When you sit in meditation, this practice becomes clear. The mind leaps from one topic to another: memories, plans, fantasies, regrets. At first, you may feel frustrated. "I cannot meditate," you think. But the truth is, noticing the wandering is already the practice. Each time you bring your attention back to the breath, you are strengthening the muscle of awareness. You are training yourself to see thoughts as clouds, not commands. Even outside meditation, this practice is possible. Walking down the street, you may notice, "I feel anxious," instead of saying, "I am anxious," which makes the feeling part of your identity. You say, "Anxiety is passing through." This small shift is powerful. It transforms suffering into observation. It reminds you that feelings are guests, not owners of the house. The Western mind often seeks control. We want to stop thoughts, silence them, eliminate them. But the Buddhist path teaches a gentler way. You do not need to control the mind. You only need to relate to it differently. Imagine standing on a riverbank, watching leaves float by. Each leaf is a thought. Some are small, some are large, some are beautiful, some are ugly. You do not need to jump into the river. You simply watch them drift away. This watching brings peace. The more you practice, the more you discover that thoughts cannot harm you. They are only words, images, impressions. They have no power unless you give it to them. They rise, they fall, they vanish. And behind them always is the vast sky of awareness. That awareness is your true home. But here's the challenge. Life brings storms. When tragedy strikes, when anger surges, when fear explodes, thoughts become wild and heavy, like dark thunderclouds. In those moments, it is easy to forget the sky. It is easy to believe the storm will never end. Yet even then, the truth remains. The storm passes, but the sky remains. The more you practice remembering this, the more resilient you become. A man once asked a monk, "How do you deal with anger?" The monk replied, "I watch it. It comes, it stays, it goes." The man pressed, "But what if it stays for a long time?" The monk smiled. "Then I watch it for a long time." This simple wisdom points to the heart of practice. We do not resist, and we do not cling. We simply watch with patience, with kindness. In watching, the grip loosens and freedom arises. This freedom is not cold detachment. It is not ignoring emotions or living like a stone. It is compassionate presence. To watch thoughts without clinging is to give them space to move. It is to say, "I see you, and I do not fear you." This is the essence of equanimity, which we will explore later. For now, It is enough to know that observing thoughts is an act of love toward yourself. It is a way of saying, I am more than my fears, more than my doubts, more than my passing stories. As you listen to these words, take a moment to notice your own thoughts. What is rising right now? Perhaps agreement, perhaps skepticism, perhaps distraction. Whatever it is, let it be. Watch it like a cloud. Feel the space around it. Realize that you are not the thought, but the awareness that sees it. That awareness is vast, timeless, unshakable dot, and when you live from that awareness, life becomes lighter. Problems do not vanish, but they lose their sting. You still experience joy and sorrow, but you are no longer imprisoned by them. You are the sky, and everything else is weather. This is the gift of seeing thoughts clearly, the gift of freedom. And yet, to live with freedom requires more than observation. It requires flexibility. Life will bend you with its storms, and if you resist too hard, you may break. The path forward calls us to learn from bamboo to bend without breaking, to sway with the wind while remaining rooted. The strength of bamboo lies not in its hardness, but in its flexibility. In the wild, storms come with howling winds and pouring rain. Tall trees may crack under the force, branches may snap, trunks may fall. But bamboo bends. It sways with the storm, bowing gracefully, allowing the wind to pass through. When the storm ends, it rises again, unbroken, still alive, still rooted. This image holds profound wisdom for the human heart. Most of us, when faced with life's difficulties, stiffen. We resist. We want things to stay the way we imagined. We fight against change, against disappointment, against uncertainty. In our effort to control life, we grow rigid. And when life inevitably shifts, when plans fail, when relationships end, when health falters, our rigidity shatters us. The pain of the event itself is real, but the suffering deepens because we refuse to bend. To live like bamboo is to embrace a different kind of strength. It is the strength of yielding, the wisdom of non-resistance. This does not mean giving up or becoming passive. It means opening to reality as it is, instead of exhausting ourselves with what we wish it to be. When emotions surge, when expectations crumble, when storms arrive, we bend. We adapt. We allow life to flow through us without breaking us apart. Think of a person who loses their job unexpectedly. The rigid mind clings to anger and fear. This should not have happened. My future is ruined. The suffering becomes unbearable. But the flexible mind acknowledges the loss, grieves honestly, and then bends toward possibility. Perhaps there is another path. Perhaps this is an opening I could not see before. With this flexibility, resilience is born. What looks like an ending can become a new beginning. The Buddha spoke of impermanence as a fundamental truth. Everything changes: our bodies, our relationships, our circumstances. To resist this truth is to fight the entire universe. But to flow with it is to discover freedom. Bamboo does not fear the wind. It moves with it. In the same way, we can learn to move with life instead of against it. There is also compassion in this bending. Many people hold themselves to impossible standards, demanding perfection in every role. They think strength means never faltering, never feeling, never failing. But real strength is gentle. It forgives mistakes. It allows tears. It honors the limits of the body and mind. When you bend, you give yourself permission to be human. You release the weight of perfectionism and discover the grace of self-compassion. One man, a father of two, carried enormous pressure to provide for his family. He worked long hours, barely slept, and lived in constant fear of failure. His children saw his exhaustion, but he hid it, believing that to show weakness would make him less of a father. Eventually, his health collapsed, forcing him to stop. At first, he felt shame, but through Buddhist practice, he began to see that bending was not failure. By softening, by resting, by admitting his limits, he became not weaker but stronger. His children learned from him not the illusion of invincibility, but the truth of resilience. Flexibility does not mean drifting without roots. Bamboo bends, but it is deeply anchored in the earth. In the same way, we bend with circumstances, but we remain rooted in awareness, in values, in compassion. This rootedness gives us stability, while flexibility gives us adaptability. Together, they create balance, the balance to survive storms without breaking, the balance to live with both strength and gentleness. Consider water. It has no rigid shape. It flows, it bends, it yields. Yet over time, it carves valleys, smooths stones, shapes mountains. Its softness is its strength. This is the paradox of life. By yielding, we endure. By letting go, we hold more. By bending, we remain unbroken. This wisdom transforms not only how we face challenges, but also how we love. In relationships, rigidity creates endless conflict. Each person insists, "It must be my way." Arguments escalate, hearts harden, bonds fracture. But when partners learn to bend, to listen, to yield, to compromise, they discover harmony. Love is not about defeating the other. It is about bending together, like two bamboos swaying in the same wind. And this bending is not limited to grand crises. It applies to the smallest frustrations. A delayed train, a rude comment, a broken appliance. Each time we resist, we suffer. Each time we bend, we release. Life becomes lighter, less of a battlefield, more of a dance. Yet bending does not mean bowing to everything blindly. It means choosing when to yield and when to stand. Bamboo bends with the wind, but it does not uproot itself. In the same way, we remain true to what matters: kindness, integrity, compassion, even as we adapt to life's changes. Flexibility is not weakness. It is wisdom guided by clarity. Take a moment now to reflect. What storms have you resisted so fiercely that you felt yourself breaking? What expectations have you clung to so tightly that they brought you suffering? Can you imagine bending, instead releasing control, opening to what is, trusting that you will not be destroyed, but renewed? This is the invitation of the bamboo principle. It is a call to soften without losing strength, to adapt without losing self-doubt. As we live this way, life itself changes. Storms no longer feel like enemies. They become teachers. Each wind that bends us shows us our resilience. Each loss that humbles us reveals our depth. Each disappointment that softens us opens our heart wider. The practice of bending turns struggle into wisdom, pain into compassion, endings into beginnings. And so, the journey continues. We have learned to watch our thoughts as passing clouds, and we have learned to bend with life like bamboo. But there is another obstacle to peace that must be faced: the human obsession with control. We try to command outcomes, to dictate how life should unfold, to hold the universe in our hands. Yet the tighter we grip, the more we suffer. To move further on this path, we must learn a new posture, not of control, but of reverence. We must bow to the moment, not as victims, but as participants in life's sacred unfolding. There is a deep impulse within the human heart, the desire to control. We want to control how people see us, how events unfold, how the future takes shape. We cling to the belief that if we manage every detail, if we tighten our grip hard enough, then suffering will disappear. And yet, paradoxically, it is this very urge to control that creates so much of our suffering. Think of a person preparing a perfect dinner party. Every dish must be flawless, every decoration must match, every guest must be impressed. Hours of stress go into planning. But when the evening arrives, a small mishap, a late arrival, a burnt dish, a spilled drink triggers frustration. Instead of enjoying the laughter of friends, the heart contracts in disappointment. Why? Because the need to control overshadowed the joy of simply being present. This pattern repeats in countless ways. We try to control our careers, demanding constant success. We try to control our bodies, resisting age and illness. We try to control relationships, expecting others to fit our desires. And when life does not bend to our will, we suffer twice, once from the challenge itself, and again from the belief that it should not be happening. Buddhist wisdom invites us to see another way. It teaches that life cannot be controlled, but it can be revered. To bow to the moment is not to surrender to chaos. It is to meet reality with humility. It is the recognition that the present moment is larger than our plans, richer than our demands, and more mysterious than our control. When we bow, we soften. We release the burden of forcing life to obey us. We allow it to unfold as it is. This bowing is not weakness. It is not passivity. It is reverence. Imagine standing before a vast mountain. You do not command it to move. You simply bow to its presence. The mountain does not shrink you. It reveals your place within something greater. In the same way, bowing to life is not about diminishing yourself. It is about expanding your awareness. You realize you're part of a vast web of causes and conditions, not the sole ruler of the universe. A monk once described this attitude as showing up without armor. Instead of approaching each moment ready to fight, ready to defend, ready to control, we arrive open, receptive, unguarded. This openness transforms how we experience everything. A difficulty becomes a teacher. A joy becomes a gift. A disappointment becomes a doorway. When we bow, we receive life instead of resisting it. Take the example of illness. Many people respond to sickness with anger or denial. They try to force the body to obey their will. But the body has its own rhythms, its own fragility. When we bow to the reality of illness, we stop wasting energy on resistance. We care for ourselves with compassion. We allow healing to unfold as it can. We trust the wisdom of the body instead of fighting it. This reverence does not erase pain, but it softens suffering. Or consider relationships. How often do we demand that others act according to our script? We want partners to love us in a specific way, friends to always agree, children to follow our exact path. But people are not objects to be controlled. When we bow to the reality of who they are, we honor their uniqueness. We release the urge to mold them. In doing so, love becomes freer, more spacious, more genuine. Control narrows our vision. It reduces every moment to a problem to be solved, a task to be mastered. Reverence expands our vision. It allows the moment to be vast, to speak to us in ways beyond our plans. When we bow, we see not just with the mind, but with the heart. We see the sacredness in the ordinary, the way sunlight falls on the floor, the way laughter arises unexpectedly, the way even sorrow has its own depth. This shift is not easy, because the urge to control is strong. It is rooted in fear, the fear that if we let go, everything will collapse. But what if letting go is not collapse but freedom? What if bowing is not defeat but liberation? Each time we release control, we discover a hidden strength, the strength of trust. Trust that life is larger than us. Trust that we can meet whatever arises. Trust that we do not need to hold everything together. There is a story of a teacher who carried a cup of tea. He held it gently, knowing that at any moment it could slip, shatter, and be gone. Because he accepted its fragility, he cherished it fully. He enjoyed each sip without clinging. This is what bowing to the moment means. To see clearly that everything is fragile, everything is temporary, and therefore everything is precious. When we try to control, we miss this. When we bow, we receive it fully. Bowing also reminds us of humility. In a world that praises domination and control, humility feels rare. But humility is not weakness. It is clarity. It is the wisdom of knowing our place in the vastness of existence. Just as rivers flow without our command, just as stars burn without our permission, life unfolds beyond our control. To bow is to honor this mystery, to participate in it with respect. Imagine living each day with this reverence. You wake not with anxiety about what must be controlled, but with gratitude for what is given. You move through the day not as a conqueror, but as a participant in life's dance. You bow to joy, you bow to sorrow, you bow to the ordinary and the extraordinary alike. This attitude does not make life easier in the sense of removing challenges, but it makes life deeper, richer, more meaningful. As you practice bowing, you may notice resistance within yourself. The mind protests. If I do not control, I will be powerless. But watch closely. The opposite is true. When you try to control everything, you are enslaved by fear. When you bow, you are freed by acceptance. Power is not in domination, but in presence. Strength is not in control, but in openness. Even now, you can bow. You can bow to your breath, feeling its rise and fall. You can bow to your body with all its imperfections and strengths. You can bow to your life exactly as it is in this moment. This simple act of reverence opens the heart. It loosens the grip of control. It invites peace to enter. Yet, as we bow to the moment, we must also ask, where do we anchor ourselves when the storms of life pull us away? Reverence softens the heart, but to remain steady, we need grounding. We need a place to return when thoughts swirl and emotions rise. That anchor, that refuge, is already within us. It is the body, the breath, the living earth beneath our feet. To find peace in chaos, we must learn to anchor in the body, to touch the earth within. When the storms of thought and emotion grow heavy, when the urge to control surges like a tidal wave, the question becomes, where can we rest? The mind races toward the past and leaps into the future, but the body is always here, in this very moment. Beneath the swirl of stories lies a foundation that does not move. The breath, the weight of the body, the ground beneath the feet. This is the anchor we often forget. This is the earth within us. In modern life, most people live from the neck up, lost in a world of ideas, plans, and judgments. The body is treated like a machine to be pushed, ignored until it breaks. We rely on stimulants to keep it moving and distractions to avoid listening to it. But Buddhist wisdom reminds us that the body is not a barrier to peace. It is the doorway. When we bring attention to the body, we return to the present. We touch reality directly, not through the filter of thoughts, but through sensation. Consider the simple act of feeling your feet on the ground. At first, it may seem trivial. Yet, the moment you notice the pressure of the earth supporting you, the rushing mind slows. You remember that you are not floating in chaos. You are held. The solidity of the ground mirrors the stability that is possible within. In the same way, when you place a hand on your chest and feel the rise and fall of breath, you remember that life itself supports you in every moment. You do not need to control the breath. It comes and goes naturally. This rhythm is a teacher, reminding you that not everything depends on your effort, that peace can arise in letting go, somatic mindfulness. The practice of anchoring in the body is a medicine for the restless mind. Thoughts jump endlessly between past regrets and future fears. But the body only exists in the present. When you attend to the body, feeling the warmth in your hands, the coolness of air on your skin, the weight of your legs, you tether awareness to now. The nervous system calms, the heart softens, the mind clears. It is like tying a boat to a steady dock in the middle of turbulent waters. One man who suffered from chronic anxiety once described how this practice transformed his life. His mind was always running, predicting disasters that never came. No amount of thinking solved his fear. But when he began to practice feeling his breath in his belly, noticing his hands resting on his knees, something shifted. His body became a sanctuary. The thoughts still came, but they no longer swept him away. He realized that safety was not found in controlling the future, but in inhabiting the present. This anchoring is not complicated. You can do it while walking, noticing the heel and toe of each step. You can do it while washing dishes, feeling the warm water and the weight of the plate. You can do it while lying in bed, sensing the support of the mattress beneath you. Each act of attention pulls you back from the storm of control into the grounding of being. The Buddha himself often guided disciples to practice mindfulness of the body. He taught them to notice the breath, the posture, the movements, the sensations. This was not because the body was ultimate, but because it was immediate. The body is always here. It does not require belief, only attention. And in giving attention, we rediscover the truth. Peace is not an idea to achieve, but a presence to feel. Anchoring in the body also restores a sense of reverence. We begin to see the body not as an enemy to be conquered, but as a temple of life. Each breath is a gift, each heartbeat a reminder of impermanence. When we touch the body with awareness, we bow to the miracle of being alive. This bowing does not erase pain or illness, but it transforms the way we hold them. Instead of fighting the body, we listen. Instead of rejecting it, we care for it. This reverence deepens peace. There is a story of a monk who taught his students to walk slowly across the courtyard, feeling each step as if kissing the earth. He told them, "When your feet touch the ground with awareness, you are touching the sacred." The students at first laughed, thinking it silly. But as they practiced, they noticed a profound shift. The simple act of walking became meditation. The earth was no longer just dirt beneath them, but a living teacher, reminding them of stability and presence. This practice is available to all of us. You do not need to be a monk. You can walk to the bus, to the office, to the kitchen with this awareness. You can breathe in traffic, breathe at work, breathe at home. Every moment becomes an invitation to anchor. Each anchor becomes a refuge from the storm doubt, and so the path of bowing and anchoring weaves together. Bowing softens the need to control, while anchoring grounds us in what is real. Together, they free us from the prison of control. We begin to live with reverence, rooted in presence, open to life as it unfolds. As you reflect on this part of the journey, consider your own life. Where are you gripping too tightly, trying to control what cannot be controlled? Where can you bow instead, meeting reality with humility? And where can you anchor, returning to the breath, the body, the earth, to find stability? These practices are not abstract. They are as immediate as this very breath, this very step, this very heartbeat. With each bow, with each anchor, peace grows. Not the peace of a world finally obeying your will, but the peace of your heart finally resting in what is. This peace is deeper, stronger, freer. It cannot be broken by circumstance, because it does not depend on circumstance. It lives within you, waiting always to be touched. And yet the journey continues. For even as we bow and anchor, another challenge remains: the fullness of our minds. Like bowls already overflowing, we try to receive life while clinging to assumptions, expectations, and demands. But a full bowl cannot receive. To move further, we must learn the wisdom of emptiness. We must become like the empty bowl, open, receptive, humble. Only then can new insights, compassion, and freedom pour in. In Buddhist tradition, the image of the monk's begging bowl carries profound symbolism. Each morning, monks walk quietly through villages with their bowls in hand. They do not demand. They do not choose what is placed within. They receive with openness, with humility, with gratitude. The bowl is not merely a tool for collecting food. It is a lesson in the art of receptivity. An empty bowl can be filled. A full bowl cannot. Our modern minds, however, are rarely empty. They are overflowing with assumptions, conclusions, judgments, and plans. We approach each moment already full of what we think we know, what we expect, what we demand. We walk into conversations not to listen, but to prepare our replies. We face challenges not to learn, but to impose our solutions. Even when peace or wisdom is offered to us, we often miss it, not because it is absent, but because our bowls are already too full. The wisdom of the empty bowl invites us to another way. It teaches us to let go of the constant filling, to cultivate a mind that is open, spacious, receptive. This does not mean erasing knowledge or abandoning discernment. It means holding life lightly, making room for what is new, allowing the unexpected to arrive. The empty bowl is not lack. It is readiness. It is the humility to admit, I do not know everything. It is the courage to say, I am willing to be taught. Consider how often we approach life with a clenched fist. We grip tightly to our opinions, our stories, our identities. We argue to defend them, resist anything that challenges them. But the clenched fist cannot receive. Only the open hand can. In the same way, only the open mind, the empty bowl, can receive the gifts of life. There is a story of a scholar who visited a Zen master, eager to display his knowledge. He spoke at length about scriptures, philosophies, arguments. The master listened patiently, then poured tea into the scholar's cup. He kept pouring until the cup overflowed. The scholar cried out, "Stop! No more will fit." The master replied, "Like this cup, you are full of your own opinions. How can I show you truth unless you first empty your cup?" This story is simple, but its meaning is profound. Each of us carries a cup filled with stories. I am this kind of person. Life should be this way. I already know how things work. These stories may provide comfort, but they also limit us. They prevent us from seeing clearly, from receiving life as it truly is. The practice of the empty bowl asks us to set these stories down, at least for a moment, so that something deeper can enter. Imagine sitting with a friend. Instead of preparing your reply, you listen fully. You do not assume you already know what they mean. You receive their words as if for the first time. Suddenly, the conversation deepens. Understanding grows. Compassion blossoms. This is the empty bowl in action, not demanding, not controlling, but receiving with openness. Or imagine facing a personal challenge, such as a career setback. The full bowl immediately fills with judgment. This is a disaster. I have failed. I know exactly what this means. The empty bowl, however, waits. It listens. It asks, what can I learn here? What is life showing me? With this openness, what first seemed like an ending may reveal itself as a new beginning. The empty bowl also teaches us comfort with uncertainty. In modern culture, we crave answers, clarity, certainty. We want to know what will happen, how things will turn out, how we will succeed. But life rarely provides certainty. It unfolds with mystery. When our bowl is full of forced conclusions, we miss this mystery. When our bowl is empty, we allow uncertainty to teach us. We discover patience, trust, humility. This receptivity is not weakness. It is not passively accepting whatever comes. It is an active openness, a willingness to meet life without preconceived limits. It is the strength to say, I will allow myself to be surprised. I will allow wisdom to arrive in forms I did not expect. This openness creates space for compassion, because when we release our rigid judgments, we can truly see others. We can meet them not with labels, but with presence. One woman described how this practice changed her marriage. For years, she had approached her husband with a bowl already full of assumptions. He never listens. He always criticizes. I know exactly what he will say. Every conversation became a battle. But when she began to practice the empty bowl, she entered conversations with curiosity instead of judgment. To her surprise, she discovered layers in her husband she had never seen. He was not only critical, he was also fearful. He was not only distant, he was longing for connection. By emptying her bowl, she received the truth of his heart, and their love grew deeper. In daily life, practicing the empty bowl can be as simple as pausing before reacting. When a thought arises, you ask, "Do I need to fill myself with this, or can I wait and see?" When a situation unfolds, you ask, "Can I receive this moment without immediately labeling it good or bad?" These small pauses create space. Space allows clarity. Clarity allows freedom. The Buddha taught that suffering arises not only from clinging, but from ignorance, the ignorance of believing we already know. The empty bowl dissolves this ignorance. It allows us to meet life directly, without filters. It reminds us that wisdom often comes not in answers, but in silence. Not in certainty, but in openness. As you listen to these words, you might notice your own bowl. Is it full of judgments, fears, and assumptions? Or is there space within it? Can you allow yourself even now to feel a little emptier, a little more open? This is not emptiness as void. It is emptiness as possibility. It is the fertile ground where compassion and insight grow. And yet, as we begin to taste the wisdom of receptivity, another challenge arises. Life does not spare us from emotions. Waves of sadness, anger, joy, and fear will continue to come. The danger is not in the emotions themselves, but in being swept away by them. To live with true peace, we must learn the art of equanimity, the ability to remain still like a pond, even as ripples spread across its surface. Equanimity is often misunderstood. Many people think it means indifference, a kind of cold detachment from life. They imagine a person who feels nothing, who watches joy and sorrow without care. But this is not equanimity. True equanimity is alive, compassionate, open-hearted. It does not erase emotion. It embraces it fully, yet without being consumed. It is the ability to remain balanced in the middle of every storm, to feel deeply without losing yourself. Imagine a pond on a still morning. The surface is calm, reflecting the sky with perfect clarity. Then a stone is thrown in. Ripples spread across the water, but the pond does not resist. It does not panic. It allows the ripples, and eventually they fade. The pond returns to stillness. In the same way, emotions will arise in your life. Grief, anger, joy, excitement bear the stones. Equanimity is the capacity to allow them, to feel them, but to remember that they will pass. The stillness of the pond remains. Without equanimity, we suffer twice. First from the emotion itself, and second from our reaction to it. When sadness comes, we fear it will never leave. When joy comes, we cling desperately, afraid it will vanish. When anger comes, we explode and regret. But with equanimity, we see clearly. Every emotion is temporary. We feel sadness fully, but we do not drown. We feel joy deeply, but we do not clutch. We feel anger rise, but we do not let it rule us. We remain steady, spacious, awake. One man lost a loved one and was devastated by grief. He tried to push it away, but the harder he fought, the stronger it grew. Finally, through mindfulness practice, he sat with his grief. He allowed himself to cry, to ache, to remember. But he also observed, this is grief. It has arrived. It will stay. It will go. Slowly, the storm softened. His grief remained, but it no longer destroyed him. He discovered that equanimity does not mean avoiding pain. It means holding pain with compassion, trusting that even the darkest wave will pass. This balance transforms joy as well. Many people cling tightly to happiness, desperate to keep it. But clinging creates anxiety, for we know joy is fleeting. Equanimity allows us to enjoy happiness without fear. Like tasting a ripe fruit, we savor it fully, knowing its sweetness will fade, but not grasping to make it last forever. In this way, equanimity deepens joy by freeing it from fear. Equanimity also changes how we relate to others. Without it, we are tossed about by other people's moods, words, and actions. A harsh comment makes us defensive. A compliment makes us inflated. Another's anger ignites our own. But with equanimity, we respond instead of react. We hear the harsh comment and notice. This is their pain speaking. We receive the compliment with gratitude, but without pride. We meet another's anger with steadiness. Equanimity gives us freedom in relationships because we are no longer controlled by the emotional weather of others. Practicing equanimity begins with awareness. The next time an emotion arises, pause. Feel it in the body. Name it gently. This is sadness. This is joy. This is anger. Notice its intensity. Notice how it changes. Stay with it like you would stay with a friend, neither running away nor clinging too tightly. As you observe, you realize that no emotion defines you. You are the awareness holding the emotion, not the emotion itself. Over time, this practice builds resilience. Life will still bring challenges, loss, conflict, change, but you will not be broken by them. Like the pond, you will ripple and then return to stillness. Like bamboo, you will bend but not break. Like the empty bowl, you will remain open. Equanimity weaves these teachings together, creating a heart that is strong yet soft, awake yet peaceful dot in daily life. Equanimity can be practiced in small ways. When waiting in traffic, instead of exploding with frustration, you notice the breath, the body, the moment. When someone cuts you off in conversation, instead of reacting with anger, you observe the irritation and let it pass. When joy arises, you savor it without clinging. These small acts are training. They prepare the heart to remain steady in greater storms. That there is a story of a monk who was insulted by a passerby. The man cursed him, shouted at him, trying to provoke a reaction. The monk remained calm. Later, a disciple asked, "How could you stay so peaceful?" The monk replied, "If someone offers you a gift and you do not take it, who does the gift belong to?" In this simple wisdom, we see equanimity, the ability to remain free even when life offers anger, insult, or chaos. Equanimity is not about becoming numb. It is about becoming vast. When the mind is small, even a single pebble causes waves. When the mind is vast, even great storms can pass without overwhelming it. The Buddha once described the enlightened mind as like the great earth. When people spit on it, bury trash in it, or decorate it with flowers, the earth remains steady, holding everything without preference. In cultivating equanimity, we become like the earth, capable of holding all experiences without being broken. As you reflect on this teaching, notice your own heart. Is it tossed about by every wave, every word, every change? Or is there a stillness beneath the ripples, a pond that reflects the sky? Can you allow emotions to come and go, trusting that none of them define you? This trust is freedom. This freedom is peace. And yet, equanimity leads us to face an even deeper truth: impermanence. All things change. Bodies age, relationships evolve, seasons pass. Equanimity prepares us to meet this truth without fear. It teaches us that we can face decay, loss, and transformation with courage. The Dharma of decay is not a tragedy but a teacher, showing us the beauty of life's unfolding. To continue this journey, we must embrace this Dharma fully. Decay, change, loss, these are realities that every human being must face, yet they are also the very truths we try hardest to avoid. We cling to youth, to possessions, to relationships, to stability, hoping to freeze time and place. We paint over wrinkles, upgrade homes, chase endless distractions, all in the hope of escaping the slow unfolding of impermanence. But the truth remains. Nothing lasts. The flower blooms and fades. The body grows strong and then weak. Relationships ignite with passion and eventually change or even end. Seasons cycle endlessly, and we cannot stop them. Modern culture often treats decay as an enemy. Advertisements promise eternal youth. Products vow to preserve beauty, to prevent aging, to mask the passage of time. Death is hidden away, spoken of in whispers, as though it were a failure instead of a natural rhythm. Yet beneath this denial is fear, the fear that if we acknowledge impermanence, life will lose its meaning. But the Buddha taught the opposite. Impermanence is not the enemy of meaning. It is the source of it. Without impermanence, nothing would be precious. Without change, life would be static and lifeless. It is because things end that they matter. Think of a sunset. If the sun hung forever at the horizon, unmoving, would we marvel at it? No. Its beauty is found in its passing, in the slow fade of color, in the reminder that this moment will never return. We pause, we gaze, we cherish precisely because we know it will end. In the same way, life itself gains richness from its impermanence. Each laugh, each touch, each breath is precious because it will not last. The Buddha called this truth the Dharma of decay, the law that everything arises, changes, and passes away. To fight this law is to suffer endlessly. To embrace it is to find peace. The leaf falls, the tree grows again. The body weakens, the spirit deepens. The old gives way to the new. When we bow to this rhythm, fear softens. Loss becomes less of an enemy and more of a teacher. One woman, grieving the death of her father, found solace in this teaching. At first, she resisted the truth. She told herself, this should not have happened. He should still be here. Her grief was doubled by her refusal to accept reality. But slowly, through meditation, she began to see impermanence not as cruelty, but as truth. She realized her father had loved, laughed, and that his passing was part of the same cycle that had given her life. Her grief softened into gratitude. The pain did not vanish, but it became lighter, transformed by acceptance. Impermanence also brings relief. When we suffer, we believe our pain will last forever. Depression whispers that joy will never return. Anxiety insists that peace will never come. But impermanence assures us otherwise. No feeling, no matter how heavy, is eternal. Every storm passes. Every wound shifts. Even the deepest sorrow changes with time. To remember this is to carry hope in the darkest hours. Consider the rhythm of breath. Each inhale arises, expands, fades. Each exhale releases, dissolves, disappears. If we cling to the inhale, refusing to let it go, we suffer. If we cling to the exhale, refusing to breathe in again, we suffer. But when we allow the cycle, we live. Breath itself is a lesson in impermanence. Life is sustained not by clinging, but by letting go. Again and again, moment after moment. This truth can be frightening, but it can also be freeing. If everything changes, then no pain defines us forever. If everything changes, then we are never trapped. If everything changes, then possibilities remain open. The prison doors of permanence do not exist. What imprisons us is not change, but our resistance to it, that we see this resistance in everyday life. A person clings to a broken relationship, insisting it must stay the same. Another resists aging, refusing to accept the lines on their face. Another holds on to anger, replaying an old wound endlessly. In each case, the suffering is not only in the event itself, but in the refusal to let go. Like someone gripping a burning coal, we hurt ourselves by holding on. The teaching of impermanence invites us to drop the coal, to release what no longer serves, to allow life to move as it will. Impermanence also teaches us compassion. When we realize that everyone we meet is subject to change, to loss, to decay, our hearts soften. The stranger who cuts us off in traffic is also aging, also carrying grief, also moving toward death. The friend who disappoints us will not be here forever. The child who frustrates us today will one day leave home. This awareness shifts our perspective. Instead of anger, we may feel tenderness. Instead of impatience, we may feel gratitude. There is a story of a king who asked his wise advisor for words that would always be true, in both joy and sorrow. The advisor replied, "This too shall pass." In times of triumph, the words humbled the king. In times of despair, the words gave him hope. This is the essence of impermanence. Joy will pass, sorrow will pass, everything will pass. And in this passing, life becomes precious dot as you reflect on your own life. Consider what you are clinging to. What are you trying desperately to preserve, as though you could stop time? What grief are you resisting, hoping it will vanish if you ignore it? Can you see these as part of the natural unfolding, as waves in the ocean of impermanence? This seeing does not erase pain, but it transforms it. It turns fear into acceptance, resistance into reverence. To live with the Dharma of decay is to live awake. It is to taste the sweetness of each moment, knowing it will not return. It is to release the weight of what is gone, making space for what is here. It is to hold joy gently, to hold sorrow gently, to hold life itself gently. In this holding, peace blossoms. And yet, as we embrace impermanence, another question arises. If everything changes, what connects us? If nothing lasts, where is stability? The answer lies in seeing beyond the personal, in discovering that we are not isolated selves, but part of a vast, interconnected rhythm. This rhythm is as intimate as our breath, and as infinite as the universe. To move deeper, we must touch the unseen thread that connects all things. Impermanence shows us that nothing lasts, but it also reveals something deeper. Everything is connected. The leaf that falls nourishes the soil feeds the tree offers shade, the shade shelters life. Decay is not an end, but a continuation, a transformation woven into the fabric of existence. This interconnectedness is the unseen thread that binds us all, reminding us that while forms change, the flow continues. Often, we suffer because we see life only through the lens of ownership. We believe our breath is my breath, our body is my body, our thoughts are my thoughts. With this belief comes pressure, the responsibility to control, protect, and perfect everything we call mine. But when we look closely, we see that nothing truly belongs to us. The breath comes and goes without our command. The body ages despite our will. Thoughts arise on their own, like clouds drifting across the sky. Life is happening through us, not just for us. This realization can be disorienting at first, but it is also profoundly liberating. When we see that the breath is not ours to own, but part of the universal rhythm, a weight lifts. We no longer carry the burden of making everything right. We rest in the flow, like a leaf carried gently by the river. The Buddha often used the breath as a doorway to this insight. He taught disciples to watch the inhale and the exhale, not as possessions, but as natural events. Inhaling, there is simply inhaling. Exhaling, there is simply exhaling. No, I is required. The breath belongs not to the self, but to life itself. When we rest in this truth, the tight grip of ego begins to soften. Imagine sitting quietly, feeling the breath move in and out. Instead of thinking, I am breathing, you notice, breathing is happening. This small shift is transformative. It reveals that you are not the isolated controller, but part of the vast process of life. The breath that flows through you is the same breath that moves through forests, oceans, and animals. It is the shared rhythm of existence. To touch this is to touch freedom. One man, burdened by constant responsibility, described how this practice changed him. He always felt he had to manage everything: his family, his work, his own emotions. The weight was unbearable. But through mindful breathing, he realized that not everything was his to carry. The breath reminded him, life is not his job to control. It is a dance in which he participates. This insight did not make him careless. On the contrary, it made him more compassionate, because he no longer saw himself as separate from others. Their suffering was his suffering, their joy his joy. This sense of interconnection is not only spiritual, but practical. When we see impermanence and non-ownership, we begin to live differently. We treat the earth with reverence, knowing it sustains us. We treat others with kindness, knowing they share our fragility. We treat ourselves with compassion, knowing we too are part of this fragile flow. The Dharma of decay teaches us that every ending is also a beginning. The fallen leaf enriches the soil. The passing season gives rise to the next. Even our bodies, when they return to the earth, nourish new life. Death itself is not a wall but a doorway. To fear it less is to live more. To embrace it is to discover gratitude for every breath, every moment, every connection. This perspective changes how we meet loss. Instead of clinging to what was, we bow to what is. Instead of despairing at endings, we honor the cycle. When we lose someone we love, grief is natural, tears are natural. But beneath the grief, there can also be gratitude for having loved at all, for having shared time in this brief, impermanent world. Impermanence does not erase love. It deepens it. It reminds us that every embrace, every word, every shared silence is sacred, because it will never come again. In this way, decay itself becomes a teacher of presence. It whispers, do not postpone living. Do not wait for tomorrow to love, to forgive, to be kind. Tomorrow is not promised. Now is the only moment you have. To live with this awareness is not to be morbid, but to be awake. It is to live with urgency, not the false urgency of busyness, but the true urgency of love. Consider the image of a candle. Its flame burns because the wax melts. Without melting, there is no light. Without decay, there is no illumination. Our lives are the same. It is through impermanence that we shine. The limited nature of time urges us to live fully, to love deeply, to awaken completely. As you reflect, think of your own life. What changes have you resisted that could be embraced as teachers? What losses have you experienced that, though painful, revealed the depth of love within you? Can you see impermanence not as an enemy, but as a guide, reminding you of the preciousness of life? To live this way is to walk gently, to bow to the passing of time, to honor the fragile beauty of existence. It is to find freedom not in permanence but in change, not in control but in letting go. This is the Dharma of decay, a truth both humbling and liberating, a truth that leads not to despair but to peace. And yet, as we accept impermanence, as we soften into change, another realization dawns. If all things are impermanent, if everything passes, then what remains? What connects us when forms dissolve? The answer lies in the breath, in the unseen thread that runs through all of life. It is the rhythm that unites trees and oceans, animals and humans, earth and death. It is the universe itself, breathing through us. To step into this truth is to discover not isolation, but belonging, not fear, but trust. It is here that our journey now leads. There is a thread running through all of existence, unseen but undeniable. You feel it when you breathe in the scent of a forest, when you stand at the edge of the ocean, when you look into the eyes of someone you love. It is the reminder that you are not separate, that your life is woven into a vast tapestry of connection. The air you breathe this very moment was exhaled by trees, by animals, by countless humans before you. The water in your body has cycled through rivers, clouds, and oceans for millions of years. You are not apart from the world. You are the world, expressing itself in human form. And yet, in modern life, it is easy to forget this truth. We are taught to see ourselves as isolated individuals, as independent units struggling to survive. We are told that life is a competition, that we must outdo others to succeed, that our happiness is separate from theirs. This illusion of separation creates loneliness, anxiety, greed, and conflict. But beneath the illusion, the thread of interconnection remains. To see it is to awaken to belonging. To live it is to taste freedom. The Buddha spoke often of dependent origination, the truth that everything arises in dependence on everything else. Nothing exists alone. The seed depends on soil, rain, and sunlight. The child depends on parents, community, and culture. Even the simplest moment of joy depends on countless unseen causes. The farmer who grew the food, the stranger who built the chair, the generations who passed down knowledge. When we see this clearly, gratitude arises naturally. Every breath, every sip of water, every act of kindness is a gift woven from countless threads. Imagine holding a single sheet of paper. At first glance, it seems simple. But look closer. Within it lies the sun that grew the trees, the rain that nourished them, the earth that supported them, the workers who harvested them, the machines that processed them, the hands that carried them. Without all of these, the paper could not exist. In this way, the entire universe is present in that single sheet. Nothing is isolated. Everything contains everything. This insight transforms how we see ourselves. The modern self is often burdened by the weight of ownership. My body, my achievements, my failures, my life. But when we realize that nothing exists independently, we see that even our lives are not fully ours. The breath is not owned. It is shared. The body is not separate. It is part of the earth. The mind is not isolated. It is shaped by culture, family, and history. This does not diminish us. It frees us. We no longer carry the crushing illusion of being the sole author of our existence. We become participants in a vast web of being. This truth is not abstract. It can be felt directly through the practice of mindful breathing. Sit quietly, feel the breath enter and leave. Realize that this breath is not yours alone. It connects you to the entire world. Without air, there is no life. Without trees, there is no air. Without the sun, there are no trees. As you breathe, you are in communion with the cosmos. Each breath is an act of belonging. Each breath is life saying, "You are part of me, and I am part of you." One man, weighed down by feelings of isolation, discovered this truth during meditation. He had long believed he was alone, disconnected, unworthy. But as he focused on his breath, he suddenly felt its vastness. He realized the air filling his lungs was not separate from the air around him, not separate from the world itself. In that moment, his loneliness softened. He saw that he had never been separate, that life had always been holding him. This realization did not erase his challenges, but it gave him a sense of home he had never known. When we live with this awareness, compassion arises naturally. If we are interconnected, then harming another is harming ourselves. If we are interconnected, then kindness to another is kindness to ourselves. This is why the Buddha emphasized compassion as inseparable from wisdom. To see interconnection is to feel the suffering of others as our own, to feel their joy as our joy. This is not sentimentality. It is reality. Consider how differently we act when we remember this truth. Instead of exploiting the earth, we protect it, because we know its health is our health. Instead of competing ruthlessly with others, we support them because their well-being is our well-being. Instead of isolating ourselves in pride or shame, we open to connection because we see that we are never alone. The thread of life runs through all beings. To honor it is to live wisely. This interconnection also transforms how we meet death. Fear arises when we believe death is the end of a separate self. But if there is no separate self, if we are part of a vast flow, then death is not annihilation, but transformation. The body returns to the earth, the breath to the air, the energy to the universe. The form dissolves, but the flow continues. Death is not a break in connection, but a continuation of it. There is a story of a teacher who, nearing death, told his students, "Do not look for me in temples or statues. Look for me in the trees, the rivers, the sky. When you breathe, I am there. When you see the sunrise, I am there." This is the wisdom of interconnection. Nothing is truly lost. Everything is transformed. To realize this is to soften the fear of death, to see it as part of life's endless rhythm. As you reflect on this truth, notice how it feels in your own body. Place a hand on your chest. Feel your breath. Realize that this breath is shared with all beings. Realize that the same rhythm moves through trees, oceans, animals, and people everywhere. You are not separate. You are part of the whole. This realization is not merely comforting. It is liberating. It frees you from the illusion of isolation, from the prison of ego, from the burden of control. It reminds you that you belong, always and everywhere. And yet, as we awaken to interconnection, another challenge emerges. We may feel compassion for others, but often we struggle to extend that compassion to ourselves. We may forgive strangers, but remain harsh with our own hearts. To walk the path fully, we must learn to soften not only outwardly, but inwardly. We must practice radical compassion, embracing even the parts of ourselves we once rejected. This is the next doorway, the next step in our journey. Compassion is often spoken of as a gift we give to others. We see someone suffering, and our hearts respond with kindness, with care, with the wish to ease their pain. But what about ourselves? How often do we extend the same compassion inward? For many people, the answer is rarely. Instead of kindness, they meet themselves with judgment. Instead of care, they meet themselves with criticism. Instead of gentleness, they push themselves with harshness. This inner cruelty may be invisible, but it is one of the deepest sources of suffering. Radical compassion begins with the daring act of turning kindness inward. It is radical because it goes against the grain of how many of us were taught to live. We were told that to be worthy, we must achieve. That to be loved, we must be perfect. That to be accepted, we must hide our flaws. These messages become internal voices. I am not enough. I should be better. I must not fail. Such voices are like chains around the heart. Compassion is the key that unlocks them. Imagine a child who falls and scrapes their knee. A loving parent does not scold the child for falling. They kneel down, clean the wound gently, hold the child, whisper, "It's okay, I'm here." This is compassion in action. Yet when we fall in life, when we make mistakes, when we fail, when we feel broken, how often do we meet ourselves with scolding instead of tenderness? Radical compassion invites us to become that loving parent to ourselves. To kneel, to hold, to whisper, "It's okay. I'm here." This practice is not about excusing harmful actions or ignoring responsibility. It is about creating the conditions for healing. When we attack ourselves with judgment, we do not grow. We shrink. When we meet ourselves with compassion, we open the door to change. Compassion does not weaken accountability. It strengthens it by giving us the courage to face our pain. Honestly, one woman described how this shift saved her life. She had long battled feelings of worthlessness, pushing herself relentlessly at work, berating herself for every mistake. Her inner voice was merciless. You are failing. You are unworthy. Through mindfulness practice, she learned to place her hand on her heart and simply say, "May I be kind to myself in this moment." At first, it felt awkward, even impossible. But with time, the harsh voice softened. She began to treat herself as she would treat a friend. Slowly, her anxiety eased, her confidence grew, and her relationships deepened. Compassion became her medicine. This is the essence of radical compassion, to treat yourself with the same tenderness you would offer to someone you love. It is radical because many of us believe we do not deserve it. But the Buddha taught that all beings are worthy of compassion, including ourselves. In fact, without self-compassion, our compassion for others often becomes thin, performative, or exhausting. To truly love others, we must learn to love ourselves. The practice of radical compassion begins with awareness. Notice the voice of judgment in your mind. Notice the phrases it repeats. I am not enough. I always fail. I should have done better. Instead of believing them, meet them with compassion. Place your hand on your heart. Breathe. Speak gently to yourself. May I be safe? May I be peaceful? May I be kind to myself? These simple phrases may seem small, but they are powerful. They plant seeds of gentleness where harshness once ruled. Another practice is to imagine yourself as a child. Picture the younger you, vulnerable, afraid, longing for love. What would you say to that child? Likely, you would not scold or shame them. You would hold them, comfort them, reassure them. This image can awaken deep compassion, reminding you that the same tenderness is needed for the adult you as well. Radical compassion also requires patience. The habits of self-judgment are old and strong. They will not vanish overnight, but each act of kindness softens them. Each gentle breath weakens their hold. Over time, compassion becomes more natural than criticism, tenderness more natural than harshness. The chains loosen. The heart opens. When compassion flows inward, it flows outward more freely. A person who has learned to embrace their own flaws becomes less judgmental of others. A person who has learned to forgive themselves finds it easier to forgive others. A person who has learned to care for their own wounds becomes a healer in the world. This is the ripple of radical compassion, beginning within, extending without, touching all beings. There is a story of a monk who was once asked, "What is the path to enlightenment?" He replied, "Compassion, compassion, compassion." The student asked, "But what about wisdom?" The monk smiled. "Compassion is wisdom. This is the heart of the teaching. To see clearly is to love deeply." When we see our shared fragility, our shared impermanence, our shared belonging, compassion becomes the only natural response. As you listen to these words, try something simple. Place your hand gently on your chest. Feel your heartbeat. Whisper inwardly, "May I be kind to myself. May I be patient. May I be free." Notice how the body responds, how the breath softens, how the heart relaxes. This is not indulgence. This is healing. This is the medicine of radical compassion. And as you walk this path, know that compassion will be tested. Life will bring challenges, betrayals, injustices. In those moments, compassion may seem impossible. Yet it is in those very moments that compassion is most needed. To practice compassion in ease is preparation. To practice it in difficulty is transformation. Radical compassion means opening the heart even when it hurts, even when it trembles, even when it would be easier to close. This does not mean allowing harm or abandoning boundaries. Compassion includes wisdom. It allows us to say no with kindness, to protect ourselves without hatred, to resist injustice without dehumanizing others. True compassion is strong. not weak. It is the courage to remain open in a world that tempts us to close down as we complete this part of the journey. Reflect on the thread that connects all things. You are not separate. You are part of the vast web of life. To honor this truth is to live with compassion for the earth, for others, for yourself. And when compassion becomes your way, life changes. The illusion of isolation fades. The burden of harshness lifts. The heart becomes light. And yet, there is one more obstacle many of us face. Even when we taste peace, even when we touch compassion, the mind often clings. We cling to identities, to roles, to stories of who we are. These clinging identities create suffering because they are fragile, always at risk of crumbling. To move forward, we must learn the art of letting go not as abandonment, but as liberation. The journey now calls us to release the self we cling to discover the freedom of living unbound. One of the deepest habits of the human mind is clinging to identity. From childhood, we are taught to answer the question, "Who are you?" with roles, labels, and stories. We say, "I am a student, I am a worker, I am a parent, I am successful, I am a failure, I am strong, I am weak." These stories become our mirrors. They give us a sense of stability, a way to navigate the world. But they also become cages. Because the truth is, every identity we cling to is fragile. Every label is temporary. Every story can be shattered in an instant dot. Think of the athlete whose career ends with an injury. Their whole identity, "I am strong, I am unstoppable," collapses in a single moment. Or the business person whose wealth disappears, suddenly stripped of the label "successful." Or the parent whose children grow up and leave home, left wondering, "Who am I now?" These moments are painful, not only because of the loss itself, but because of the collapse of identity. We believed we were only that role, only that story. When it ends, we feel we end with it. The Buddha pointed to this suffering long ago. He taught that clinging to the self, to the idea of a permanent I, is one of the deepest sources of pain. The self we cling to is like a costume we mistake for our skin. We forget that beneath every role, child, partner, worker, leader, there is something more spacious, something not bound by labels. We are awareness itself, vast and free, able to hold any role, but never reduced to one. Letting go of identity does not mean abandoning our lives or rejecting our roles. It means wearing them lightly, like clothes that can be changed. You can be a parent, but you are not only a parent. You can be a worker, but you are not only a worker. You can succeed, you can fail, you can laugh, you can cry, but none of these alone define you. To let go is to realize you are more than the stories you tell yourself. Imagine a bird sitting on a branch. The bird does not cling to the branch with desperation, fearing it is the only branch in existence. The bird rests lightly, ready to fly to the next branch, the next tree, the next horizon. This is the way of non-clinging. We participate fully in our lives, but when change comes, we do not collapse. We let go and fly on. This practice is especially powerful in times of transition. Many people resist change because it threatens their identity. Retirement, divorce, aging, even success, all these can feel destabilizing because they shift the stories we hold. But when we loosen our grip on identity, change becomes less frightening. We see that who we are is not fixed but flowing, not rigid but open. We are not the branch. We are the bird. Letting go of identity also frees us from comparison. When we cling to being successful, we suffer whenever someone seems more accomplished. When we cling to being attractive, we suffer when we see someone younger or more beautiful. When we cling to being smart, we suffer when we encounter someone with greater knowledge. The comparison never ends because identities are always fragile. But when we let go, we realize we do not need to measure ourselves against others. We are life itself, expressing uniquely through us. There is no comparison in that one man who had built his whole life around his career found himself devastated when his company collapsed. For months, he felt worthless. His identity as a successful leader was gone. But through meditation, he began to see that his worth was not tied to his job. He realized he was more than his career. He was a father, a friend, a seeker, a being capable of love and presence. Slowly, he loosened his grip on the old identity and discovered freedom in simply being. Letting go is not always easy. The mind fears emptiness. It asks, if I am not this, then who am I? But the teaching reminds us, emptiness is not void. It is space. It is the sky that holds all clouds, the canvas that holds all paintings. When we stop clinging to fixed identities, we open to something larger, the spaciousness of awareness, the freedom to meet each moment fresh. There is a story of a monk who carried a simple porcelain teacup. He cherished it, but also knew it was fragile. Each time he drank, he remembered, this cup is already broken. Because he accepted its impermanence, he used it with joy, without fear. When it eventually shattered, he did not despair. In the same way, when we hold our identities lightly, we live with more joy and less fear. We know they are temporary, and so we do not cling. This letting go does not mean losing individuality. It means discovering a deeper self beyond roles. It means realizing you are not trapped in any single story. You are not just a worker, not just a parent, not just a success, not just a failure. You are the awareness that can play all these roles, like an actor on a stage, fully engaged but never bound. The actor is not the character. You are not your identity. As you reflect, ask yourself, what identities do you cling to? What labels feel like cages? What stories cause you suffering when they are threatened? Can you imagine loosening your grip, even slightly, and allowing yourself to be more than those labels? This is not abandonment. It is liberation. Letting go of identity opens the door to a new way of living, a way of authenticity, where we meet life without the need to constantly defend who we think we are. It frees us to live with curiosity, with openness, with playfulness. It allows us to move through life lightly, like the bird on the branch, ready to fly. And yet, even as we let go of our personal identities, we face another truth. Life itself is not about clinging or proving, but about surrender. To live fully, we must learn the art of flowing with what is, trusting the current of existence instead of resisting it. This surrender is not passive. It is not defeat. It is the deepest form of freedom. It is the way of the river. The river does not resist. It does not demand that the rocks move out of its way. It does not cling to the mountain spring where it began, nor does it try to grasp the ocean before it arrives. The river flows. It winds through valleys, bends around obstacles, carves new paths when needed. Its power comes not from rigidity, but from surrender. By flowing, it reaches the sea. In many ways, our lives are like rivers. We begin in innocence. We travel through landscapes of joy and hardship. We encounter obstacles and detours. Yet so often, instead of flowing, we resist. We try to freeze the river, to hold on to the places we love, to avoid the places we fear. We demand certainty in a world that is always shifting, and in our resistance, we suffer. The wisdom of the river teaches us that freedom lies in surrender. This does not mean giving up or becoming passive. It means trusting the current of life. It means moving with change instead of against it. It means knowing that even when the river bends out of sight, it still flows toward the sea. To live this way is to release the burden of control and discover the peace of trust. Consider how often resistance adds to suffering. A relationship ends, And instead of grieving and flowing forward, we cling to what was, replaying memories endlessly. A job is lost, and instead of exploring new paths, we resist, insisting that the past should return. An illness arrives, and instead of caring for ourselves with gentleness, we fight reality, demanding that our bodies obey. In each case, the pain is real, but the suffering deepens because of resistance. The river reminds us, flow. One woman, diagnosed with a chronic illness, felt her life collapse. She resisted fiercely, angry at her body, at fate, at the unfairness of it all. Her days were filled with bitterness, her nights with despair. But through practice, she began to soften. She realized she could not control the illness, but she could choose how to meet it. She began to flow with her new reality, resting when needed, asking for help, discovering new joys within her limits. Her illness did not vanish, but her suffering lessened. By flowing, she found peace. This surrender is not weakness. It is courage. It takes courage to release the illusion of control, to admit that life is larger than us. It takes courage to trust that the river knows where it is going, even when we cannot see the end. But this courage is rewarded with freedom. We no longer waste energy fighting reality. We no longer exhaust ourselves clinging to what must pass. We live in harmony with the flow. The Buddha often compared life to a river. He taught that clinging to permanence is like trying to grasp water in your fist. The tighter you hold, the more it slips away. But if you cup your hands gently, water rests within them. In the same way, when we soften our grip on life, we can truly hold it. When we stop resisting, we can finally receive. Flowing with life also means embracing uncertainty. The river's path is not always clear. It twists, turns, and surprises. In our culture, uncertainty is often feared. We want maps, guarantees, assurances. But uncertainty is where possibility lives. If everything were certain, nothing new could arise. When we surrender to uncertainty, we open to discovery. We allow life to surprise us with gifts we could never have planned. This surrender transforms relationships as well. Instead of demanding that others fit our expectations, we allow them to be who they are. Instead of clinging to rigid roles, we flow with the changing tides of connection. Love becomes less about possession and more about presence. Like the river, love flows when we let it and dries when we dam it. To love deeply is to allow flow in daily life. Practicing surrender can be as simple as noticing resistance in the body. When something does not go as planned, the shoulders tighten, the jaw clenches, the breath shortens. In that moment, pause, breathe, whisper inwardly, flow, release the tension, trust the current. This small act can shift an entire day, turning frustration into acceptance, resistance into peace. There is a story of a monk who was asked how he found peace. He replied, "When I walk, I walk. When I eat, I eat. When I rest, I rest." The student protested, "But everyone does that." The monk smiled. "No, when others walk, their minds are already running ahead. When they eat, their thoughts are elsewhere. When they rest, they worry about tomorrow. I flow with each moment. That is why I'm at peace." This is the essence of surrender. To be with what is, fully, without clinging to what was or demanding what should be. It is to trust the river of life, to flow in harmony with its current. In doing so, we discover a freedom that control can never give us. As you reflect on this teaching, ask yourself, where are you resisting the river? What bends are you fighting against? What waters are you trying to dam? Can you soften your grip, release the demand, and trust the flow? Even now, in this breath, can you whisper inwardly, flow? Notice how the body responds, how the heart eases, how the mind quiets. To live this way is not to escape challenges, but to meet them with grace. Storms will still come. Obstacles will still appear. Losses will still hurt. But when you flow, you remain unbroken. You bend with the current. You adapt with the tide. You move with life instead of against it. This is the freedom of surrender. And yet, as we learn to flow, another dimension of practice awaits. Flowing does not mean drifting aimlessly. It means moving with awareness, rooted in values, guided by compassion. To flow wisely, we must cultivate mindfulness, not just in meditation, but in every act, every word, every step. The journey now leads us to explore how mindfulness turns ordinary life into sacred practice. How awareness transforms flow into awakening dot. There was once a monk who owned a simple porcelain teacup. Every morning, he would pour tea into it, drink slowly, and feel the warmth spreading through his hands, his chest, his mind. The cup was fragile, delicate, easily broken. Yet the monk cherished it, not because it was perfect or enduring, but because it held what he needed in the moment. Each sip reminded him that life is fleeting, that joy is present now, and that everything is impermanent. This teacup teaches us a profound lesson about attachment. Most people treat their possessions, their identities, their roles as though they are permanent, as though holding tightly will make them last forever. But all forms are fragile. All things pass. The cup, the role, the success, the beauty, everything eventually changes. Clinging to them creates suffering. Releasing them creates freedom. The monk did not neglect the cup. He handled it with care, aware of its fragility. But he did not panic when it chipped or cracked. He did not clutch it with desperation. He understood that the value was not in possession, but in presence. This is a principle we can apply to our own lives. To hold life lightly is to enjoy it fully. To cling is to suffer. Imagine your own hands cupped around something precious. Maybe it is a relationship, a job, a dream, or a reputation. You squeeze tightly, fearing it will slip. The pressure makes the object tremble. You cannot enjoy it because the fear of loss overshadows the gift of having it. Now imagine holding it gently, with awareness, with gratitude. You notice its beauty, its impermanence, its presence. The experience transforms. Freedom arises. This is the essence of mindful presence. To engage fully, yet without grasping. To love deeply, yet without clinging. We are taught in modern culture that success requires possession. That happiness is only found by acquiring, controlling, or perfecting. Yet Buddhist wisdom points the way to a different truth. The richest experiences arise when the heart is open, when the mind is free, when we honor what is without demanding permanence. The teacup is also a symbol of humility. It is small, simple, ordinary. It does not boast. It does not compete. It does not demand admiration. Yet it teaches enormous truths. Similarly, our own ordinary lives, when approached with mindfulness, reveal extraordinary lessons. The act of drinking tea, walking in the garden, washing dishes, each can become sacred if we are fully present. The teacup reminds us that the ordinary contains the extraordinary. There is also a lesson about acceptance. The cup may chip, it may crack, it may break. Yet the monk does not despair. He does not curse the cup for failing him. He accepts its fragility, and in doing so, he finds peace. Life, like the cup, is fragile. Our bodies, our relationships, our achievements, all are delicate, impermanent. To resist this truth is to suffer. To accept it is to be free. Many people resist fragility. They seek perfect bodies, perfect relationships, perfect careers. They armor themselves against loss, disappointment, and imperfection. Yet this resistance creates tension, anxiety, and fear. The teacup teaches us to release the armor, to meet fragility with awareness and tenderness, to drink from it fully, knowing it may break, to love fully, knowing all is temporary. Even in the face of loss, the lesson of the teacup remains. When a cup falls and shatters, the monk does not curse fate. He acknowledges the impermanence, cleans the pieces, and carries on. The act of living continues. Similarly, when we face death, endings, heartbreak, or failure, we can acknowledge the fragility, allow grief to arise, and continue. The path is not to avoid loss, but to move through it with presence and awareness. The teacup also speaks to gratitude. The monk does not take it for granted. He sees the gift in each sip, the warmth in his hands, the nourishment in his body. Gratitude arises not from accumulation, but from presence. It is not about what we hold, but how we experience what we hold. The richest lives are those that drink fully from the present moment, no matter how small or ordinary the vessel. Consider how often we rush through life. We drink coffee while checking emails. We eat while scrolling our phones. We walk while lost in thought. The teacup calls us back. It invites us to pause, to notice, to drink fully, to feel each moment as it is. This is not ritual for its own sake. It is a method to awaken awareness, to cultivate mindfulness, to anchor the heart in presence. Mindfulness, like the teacup, requires simplicity. It does not demand grandeur or complex practices. It begins with noticing, with awareness, with gentle attention. Feeling the warmth of the cup, the aroma of the tea, the sensation of liquid filling the mouth. Feeling the breath, the heartbeat, the contact of feet on the floor. These simple acts, repeated, cultivate a mind that is steady, a heart that is present, a life that is awake. There is also a lesson about non-attachment to identity. The monk is not defined by the cup. He is not its owner in a possessive sense. The cup is a tool, a companion, a vessel. In the same way, our possessions, roles, and identities can be tools rather than chains. We use them, we appreciate them, we let them serve us without letting them define us. To live this way is to walk lightly in the world. Even the act of holding the cup is instructive. The hands cradle it with care. They do not squeeze. They do not ignore. This balance of attentiveness and openness is the heart of mindful living. Too much grip creates tension, anxiety, and fear of loss. Too little awareness creates neglect and distraction. The middle way, the attentive openness, is where freedom and peace reside. The teacup also reminds us that fragility and beauty are intertwined. Its delicate porcelain, its simple shape, its vulnerability, these are precisely what make it meaningful. Similarly, the fragility of life, the fleeting moments, the ephemeral relationships, the impermanence of the body makes each moment precious. When we recognize this, we drink deeply from life, savoring each experience without clinging, without fear. Through the lens of the teacup, we can see the wider world differently. Each moment is fragile, each encounter delicate, each breath temporary. And yet, in this fragility lies opportunity. The opportunity to be fully present. The opportunity to love fully. The opportunity to live fully. To cling is to miss the gift. To embrace the impermanence is to awaken to it. As you reflect, notice your own life's teacups. What do you hold with too tight a grip? What do you cherish without awareness? Can you bring the same gentle mindfulness to these areas of life as the monk brings to his cup? Can you notice each sip, each breath, each moment, fully, without demanding permanence, without clinging, without fear? This is the practice. This is the doorway to equanimity, to mindfulness, to peace. The teacup also teaches patience. Its porcelain may take time to form, baked slowly, shaped carefully. The tea takes time to brew, to reach the perfect warmth. Similarly, our practice of mindfulness, our cultivation of presence, our awakening to impermanence all require patience. We cannot force awareness. We cannot rush understanding. Like the cup and the tea, life unfolds in its own time. Patience is the recognition that the process itself is sacred. Finally, the teacup teaches us simplicity. In a world that glorifies accumulation, speed, and excess, the simple cup reminds us that fulfillment is found not in more, but in enough. Not in complexity, but in presence. Not in permanence, but in the awareness of impermanence. The simplest practices, done with full attention, can awaken the deepest wisdom. Through the teacup, we learn to live lightly, to hold softly, to drink fully, to accept fragility, to embrace impermanence, to cultivate gratitude, to awaken awareness, to practice patience, and to cherish simplicity. Each of these lessons is a doorway. Step through, and the ordinary becomes extraordinary. The lessons of the teacup extend beyond objects into every facet of our lives. Consider relationships. Like the fragile porcelain, they require care, attention, and presence. A word said in anger can chip the surface. Neglect can crack the bond. But gentle attention, sincere listening, and mindful presence preserve and deepen the connection. Relationships, like the cup, are not meant to be clutched or controlled. They are meant to be held lightly, cherished for their beauty, and treated with respect for their impermanence. Even our own emotions can be seen through the lens of the teacup. Joy is delicate, easily overshadowed by expectation or grasping. Anger is sharp, capable of shattering calm if held too tightly. Fear is fragile, yet heavy if clung to. By approaching our emotions with mindful awareness, holding them with gentle hands rather than a tight grip, we allow them to flow through us. We experience their presence fully, yet we are not broken by them. We drink from them without being consumed. This mindfulness of experience is the foundation of equanimity. The monk does not rush through his tea, nor does he cling to it with desperate desire. He drinks attentively, savoring each sip. When the tea cools, he accepts it. When the cup chips, he does not despair. Similarly, life flows with events, feelings, and experiences. Some bring joy, some bring sorrow, some are fleeting, some are enduring. Equanimity arises when we meet them all with awareness, without grasping, without resisting. The teacup also teaches us humility. Its form is unassuming, yet it holds life-giving tea. It serves a purpose without claiming importance. In the same way, our lives are meaningful, not because of grandeur or recognition, but because of our attentive presence, our care, our engagement with the world. Humility is not thinking less of ourselves. It is thinking less about the need to prove, to control, or to dominate. It is the recognition that the simplest acts, when done with awareness, are enough. Patience is another gift the cup offers. Brewing tea takes time. Pouring it carefully takes attention. Drinking it with mindfulness cannot be rushed. In this, we see a reflection of life itself. Growth, healing, understanding, and peace all take time. We cannot force awareness, nor can we hasten insight. Each moment unfolds in its own rhythm, and by respecting this rhythm, we learn patience with ourselves, with others, and with the world. The cup also teaches impermanence directly. One day, it may chip, crack, or break completely. Nothing lasts forever. The monk's peace does not depend on the cup remaining whole. It depends on his presence, his awareness, and his acceptance. In the same way, our peace is not found in clinging to people, objects, or circumstances. It is found in the quality of our attention, in the depth of our awareness, in our ability to meet each moment fully, whatever it brings. Through mindfulness of objects, relationships, emotions, and experiences, we cultivate a mind that is free, yet grounded, aware, yet spacious. We learn that presence is more important than possession. We learn that the act of noticing, of appreciating, of engaging fully, transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary. The teacup reminds us that awareness itself is the vessel that carries life's richness. The simplicity of the teacup also points to the power of ordinary practice. We often search for extraordinary experiences, grand trips, life-changing events, profound revelations. Yet, as the monk demonstrates, the deepest wisdom is found in the simplest acts, performed with full attention. Washing the dishes, drinking tea, walking slowly, breathing mindfully, these acts, done with awareness, awaken us to the sacred in the mundane, even suffering, when approached with mindfulness, becomes a teacher. The pain of life, the disappointments, the losses, these are like the cracks in the cup. They are not flaws to despise, but openings through which insight and compassion can flow. When we encounter suffering with gentle awareness, we learn resilience. We discover the depth of our hearts. We practice holding the fragile with care, and in doing so, we extend that care to the world around us. The teacup also teaches integration. Mindfulness is not limited to meditation cushions or quiet moments. It permeates every act, every interaction, every breath. Drinking tea mindfully is connected to walking, to speaking, to listening, to working. Awareness is not compartmentalized. It is continuous. The monk's attention in holding the cup informs his attention in every moment of life. This integration is the essence of living awake mindfulness as a way of being rather than a temporary practice. Through the lens of the teacup, we can see the interconnection of all teachings we have explored. Mindfulness, equanimity, non-attachment, compassion, impermanence, all converge in this simple act. Holding the cup with presence teaches us how to hold our thoughts, our emotions, our relationships, our identities, and our lives. We learn to engage fully without grasping, to act with care without clinging, to love deeply without fear of loss. As we approach the end of this practice, reflect on your own teacups, literal or metaphorical, in your life. How do you hold them? Do you grip with fear, trying to prevent impermanence? Do you rush, missing the beauty of the present moment? Or do you hold gently, attentively, with presence, awareness, and gratitude? Can you drink fully, savoring the richness of each experience, knowing it will not last forever? The teacup invites us to cultivate a mind that is awake, a heart that is tender, and a life that is fully lived. It asks us to balance care with openness, attention with acceptance, presence with humility. In these small acts, the vastness of existence becomes accessible. The ordinary becomes extraordinary. The fragile becomes precious. The moment becomes eternal in its depth. Through mindful presence, through gentle care, through acceptance of fragility, through awareness of impermanence, the teacup becomes a doorway. It is not a mere object. It is a teacher. It is a guide, showing us how to live fully, to love deeply, to awaken in the midst of ordinary life. Each sip, each breath, each moment is an opportunity to practice these teachings, to embody the principles that lead to freedom, peace, and joy. By the end of this reflection, we realize that the teacup is a mirror. It reflects the way we hold ourselves and the world. It teaches that life is precious, fragile, and fleeting. It shows us that presence matters more than control, awareness more than accumulation, love more than fear. And it reminds us that we can meet life fully, moment by moment, sip by sip, breath by breath. The monk's teacup is more than an object. It is a symbol of everything we have explored: the stillness beneath the mind's chatter, the wisdom of letting go, the grace of bending like bamboo, the beauty of impermanence, the depth of compassion, the freedom of surrender, the openness of the empty bowl, and the flow of life's river. By holding the teacup, we hold life. By drinking from it mindfully, we drink deeply from existence itself. In the quiet of the early morning, when the world is still and the mind is less cluttered, it is possible to sense the rhythm of life moving through us. This rhythm is subtle, often unnoticed, yet it is steady, like the pulse of the earth beneath our feet. It is the movement of time, the unfolding of change, the flow of cause and effect. The Buddha described this as the web of karma, the natural law that every action, every thought, every intention has consequences that ripple outward. Understanding this web is not about judgment or punishment. It is about clarity, awareness, and responsibility. Most people live unaware of these ripples. We act impulsively, speak hastily, think carelessly. A harsh word may bruise a friend's heart. A selfish choice may burden a colleague. A thought of resentment may shape our own mind, creating tension, anxiety, and suffering. These consequences are invisible at first, but they accumulate, shaping the quality of our life and the lives of those around us. Karma is not a distant law enforced by a deity. It is the natural unfolding of cause and effect in our everyday actions. Understanding this web invites mindfulness. Every choice becomes meaningful. Each moment becomes an opportunity to act with intention rather than habit. A simple decision, whether to speak kindly, to offer help, to pause before reacting, can ripple outward in ways we may never see. Just as a pebble thrown into a pond creates concentric circles that spread far beyond its initial impact, so too do our actions touch lives beyond our immediate perception. Consider a person who habitually complains at work. They do not intend harm, yet their negativity spreads. Colleagues become irritable, productivity falters, and relationships fray. Over time, the pattern reinforces itself, creating a cycle of tension. But awareness of cause and effect offers a path to break the cycle. By choosing to speak thoughtfully, by offering solutions rather than complaints, by cultivating patience, the same person can generate ripples of harmony, collaboration, and ease. The power lies not in grand gestures, but in consistent, mindful actions. This understanding also extends inward. Every thought we entertain shapes our inner life. Anger breeds tension. Resentment breeds suffering. Gratitude nurtures peace. Compassion fosters warmth. When we recognize the effects of our inner actions, we see that cultivating mental habits is just as important as cultivating external behavior. Meditation, reflection, and mindfulness are the tools for refining the inner landscape, creating harmony within that then radiates outward. One young man struggled with jealousy toward his friend's successes. At first, he blamed them, feeling resentful and defensive. But through mindfulness practice, he began to notice the internal ripples, how jealousy affected his sleep, his focus, his relationships, and even his own self-esteem. By observing without judgment and cultivating gratitude and admiration instead of envy, he transformed his inner world. Over time, he found that the positive ripples of his newfound mindset improved his friendships and deepened his own sense of satisfaction. The web of cause and effect also teaches patience. Actions do not always produce immediate results. Seeds planted today may take years to bear fruit. Efforts made in kindness may only be recognized later. Mistakes may create consequences that take time to understand and amend. Impatience is natural, but wisdom requires us to trust the process. By attending to our intentions and actions now, we contribute to outcomes that may unfold in ways we cannot immediately perceive. There is also the lesson of humility. We cannot control all consequences, nor can we predict the results of every action. Our lives are entangled with countless variables, other people's choices, circumstances, the natural world. Yet this is not cause for despair. It is cause for mindfulness. When we accept our part in the web, we act with care, integrity, and awareness, knowing that even small actions have significance. Karma is not about reward or punishment. It is about responsibility. Every thought, word, and deed carries energy that shapes our lives and the world around us. To live unconsciously is to drift, to be buffeted by circumstance. To live with awareness is to navigate the river of life intentionally, creating harmony and wisdom with each choice. The principle of cause and effect also illuminates suffering. Most suffering is rooted in patterns we reinforce unknowingly. Repeated judgments, habitual anger, clinging to identity, resisting impermanence, all these patterns shape our experience. By observing these habits with awareness, we can intervene, choosing actions that lead to freedom rather than continued suffering. Awareness is the first step. Intention is the second. Practice is the third. Through these steps, we can cultivate lives that reflect wisdom, compassion, and peace. Consider a family caught in conflict. Each member reacts from habitual patterns: pride, defensiveness, blame. The conflict escalates, creating tension and emotional distance. Yet when one person pauses, breathes, observes their own reaction, and chooses a mindful response, the pattern shifts. The energy moves differently. A small act of awareness can transform the dynamic of the entire family. This is karma in action, not mystical fate, but the conscious shaping of consequences. Similarly, our thoughts shape our perception of life. A mind clouded by negativity interprets events as hostile. A mind cultivated with gratitude and compassion interprets events as lessons or opportunities. Thoughts are seeds. Each one, nurtured with attention, grows into a tree that shades our life. The web of cause and effect is not only external, it is internal. Awareness allows us to cultivate fertile soil for the seeds we plant, ensuring that what grows supports well-being rather than suffering. One woman, struggling with self-criticism, discovered this principle through daily mindfulness. Each time she caught herself judging, she paused and reframed the thought with kindness. Initially, the effect was subtle. Over time, however, the cumulative impact was profound. Her anxiety lessened, her relationships improved, and her sense of self-worth deepened. Each small, mindful action rippled outward, shaping the quality of her inner and outer life. The web of cause and effect also teaches foresight. By observing the patterns of life and our own habitual tendencies, we can anticipate consequences and choose wisely. A parent, aware of how harsh words affect a child, chooses patience. A leader, aware of how decisions ripple through a team, acts with clarity and compassion. Awareness of the web encourages responsibility, foresight, and ethical action. This mindfulness of causality is not rigid or fearful. It does not paralyze with worry about every possible outcome. Rather, it nurtures clarity and presence. It allows us to engage with life intentionally, to act with care, and to respond thoughtfully to challenges. Karma is a guide, showing how our actions connect with the world, how our intentions shape our experience, and how freedom is cultivated through conscious choice. In this understanding, we see that liberation is not separate from everyday life. Every act becomes an opportunity to awaken. Every interaction becomes a chance to practice awareness, compassion, and mindfulness. The web of cause and effect is present in every conversation, every task, every encounter. Nothing is mundane. Nothing is without consequence. Life itself is the teacher, and we are both students and participants. As you reflect, consider the energy of your own actions. How do your thoughts, words, and deeds ripple through the world? How do they shape your inner life? Are your patterns of thought and behavior supporting peace and clarity, or perpetuating suffering? Awareness allows us to step into this web with responsibility and freedom. To live consciously within this web is to move beyond the illusion of separation. Each choice is a connection, each act a thread linking you to the vast tapestry of life. By attending to this interconnectedness, we awaken to our role in the world, understanding that our freedom, our peace, and our compassion are inseparable from the lives of others. Understanding the web of cause and effect transforms our relationship with mistakes. Mistakes are not failures. They are signals, teachers, opportunities to understand the consequences of our actions. When we act carelessly, we observe the effects and learn. When we act with awareness, we shape positive ripples. The Buddha taught that insight arises through observation, reflection, and mindful adjustment. Mistakes are not obstacles, but instruments of learning, reminders that awareness is the path to freedom. A young student, prone to anger in the classroom, noticed how each outburst affected not only his relationships with peers, but also his own inner state. Each instance of yelling created tension in his body, anxiety in his mind, and disconnection with friends. Through mindfulness, he began to pause before reacting. He observed the sensation of rising anger, noted the impulse to act, and consciously chose to respond with calm words. Over time, this small shift transformed his entire environment. Classmates responded more openly, trust deepened, and the student himself felt lighter, freer, and more present. Karma, in its simplest form, revealed itself through awareness and practice. This principle extends to gratitude and generosity as well. Kindness ripples outward in ways we cannot always predict. A smile given, a hand extended, a word of encouragement, these simple actions travel farther than we realize. They may inspire hope, ease suffering, or even save someone from despair. When we understand the web of cause and effect, we realize that small, mindful acts carry immense power. We do not need to wait for grand opportunities to make a difference. Every moment offers a chance to create positive ripples. Consider the story of a woman who volunteered her time to listen to elderly neighbors. Her task seemed simple. She would sit and talk, offer companionship. Over time, she discovered profound effects. The elders felt less lonely. Their health improved slightly. The local community grew closer, and her own sense of purpose deepened. One act, repeated with mindfulness and attention, generated an unseen network of impact that extended far beyond the immediate encounter. This is the subtle force of karma, unfolding in everyday life. But the web of cause and effect also includes challenges. Actions born from ignorance, greed, or anger generate suffering, often returning to us in ways we do not anticipate. A harsh word spoken in haste may create regret, alienation, or hostility. A selfish act may generate resentment or loss. Understanding karma is not about moralizing or creating fear. It is about cultivating awareness, recognizing that our choices matter, and learning to act with wisdom. Mindfulness allows us to notice these patterns early. When we see anger rising, we pause. When we notice envy creeping in, we observe without attachment. When fear or judgment appears, we recognize it as a mental event, not as the ultimate truth. This awareness gives us the opportunity to act intentionally, breaking cycles of harm and cultivating cycles of benefit. Each moment becomes a choice point, to perpetuate suffering or to generate harmony. There is a story of a farmer who accidentally dropped seeds meant for planting. Instead of despairing, he picked them up carefully and replanted them. The seeds grew, perhaps differently than he expected, but they still produced nourishment. This story illustrates the principle of cause and effect. Actions may not unfold perfectly, yet mindful attention allows the positive potential to manifest. Awareness transforms accidents into opportunities, errors into lessons, obstacles into growth. The Buddha emphasized intention, not merely action, as the cornerstone of karma. A thought of compassion generates different ripples than a thought of malice. A deliberate act of generosity creates different consequences than a careless gesture. Even in small moments, our intentions carry weight, influencing the quality of our experience and that of others. Awareness of intention allows us to act ethically, with clarity, and with mindfulness. Consider daily interactions. How often do we speak without noticing the potential impact? How often do we react based on habit ego, or impulse. Mindfulness teaches us to pause, observe, and choose. Even a brief pause before a word or action can prevent harm and foster connection. This pause is a moment of power, a chance to align with wisdom, compassion, and insight. Observing the ripple effect of our choices also nurtures patience. We may plant seeds today, but the harvest may come weeks, months, or years later. A kind word may inspire courage in someone years down the line. A moment of honesty may guide someone toward truth long after we forget it. Understanding karma encourages patience with outcomes, trust in the process, and dedication to mindful living. One man, who had experienced repeated conflict at work, realized that his habitual reactions fueled tension. By practicing mindfulness, observing his impulses, and choosing responses grounded in clarity and empathy, he gradually transformed his environment. Colleagues became more cooperative, meetings more productive, and his own stress diminished. The consequences of intentional, aware action unfolded gradually, teaching him that consistent mindfulness shapes life in profound ways. Karma is also a teacher of humility. We cannot control all outcomes, nor can we predict how our actions will affect others. Despite our best intentions, results may differ from expectations. Yet even in imperfection, mindful action carries value. The effort to act with awareness, integrity, and compassion itself generates positive ripples, regardless of immediate results. Humility arises from recognizing that our influence is part of a larger web of conditions, yet we retain responsibility within our sphere. This perspective nurtures gratitude. Every positive ripple we encounter, the smile of a friend, the warmth of a meal, the breath that sustains us arises from countless causes beyond our control. Awareness of the interconnected web deepens appreciation for life, for others, and for the simple, often overlooked acts that sustain us. Gratitude, like karma, creates further ripples of benefit, enhancing both our inner experience and our engagement with the world. Through mindfulness of cause and effect, we also develop insight into impermanence. Actions, results, relationships, emotions, they all change. Nothing is static. By observing the consequences of our actions over time, we see the impermanence inherent in life. This understanding reduces clinging, softens fear, and opens the heart to embrace change. Each ripple is temporary, yet it carries significance. Awareness allows us to navigate the shifting currents with grace. The web of cause and effect, combined with impermanence, also deepens compassion. Recognizing that others are caught in their own chains of causes and conditions, we cultivate patience and empathy. People may act from ignorance, fear, or habit. Understanding this, we respond not with judgment, but with care. Compassion, in this sense, is inseparable from insight. We see clearly, yet we act with tenderness. Even our inner world is shaped by these principles. Mental habits, repeated thought patterns, and emotional responses create ripples that influence our well-being. By observing our mind with mindfulness, we can interrupt harmful cycles, reinforce beneficial ones, and cultivate a state of awareness that supports freedom and joy. Karma is not merely external. It is internal, shaping our consciousness, our habits, and ultimately our experience of life itself. A student once asked a teacher, "How can I be free from suffering?" The teacher replied, "Observe carefully. Notice your actions, your intentions, and their effects. When you act with awareness, suffering diminishes. When you act with thoughtlessness, suffering increases. Each moment is a choice. Each choice creates ripples. The path is in the noticing, the choosing, the learning." This guidance highlights the practical, accessible nature of karma. It is lived through conscious attention in daily life. Through practice, the awareness of cause and effect integrates with every aspect of living. Decisions at work, gestures at home, words spoken in friendship, thoughts cultivated in solitude. all contribute to the web. Understanding this encourages ethical living, responsibility, compassion, and mindful engagement. We become architects of our experience, shaping it consciously rather than being buffeted by unconscious patterns. The ripples of karma also teach patience with others. When someone acts harmfully, we may initially feel anger or resentment. Yet if we recognize that their actions arise from causes and conditions, we can respond with understanding. We do not condone harm, but we perceive its roots, allowing us to act with clarity, skill, and compassion. This approach transforms conflict into opportunity, hostility into dialogue, and misunderstanding into connection. As we reflect on the web of cause and effect, consider your own life. Notice patterns of thought, action, and emotion. Observe how your choices shape your experience and the lives of those around you. Where have you cultivated beneficial ripples? Where have you unintentionally created suffering? Awareness is the first step toward intentional living. Mindfulness is the bridge between insight and action. By living consciously within the web of cause and effect, we align ourselves with the natural rhythm of life. We recognize the power of each choice, the impermanence of outcomes, and the interconnectedness of all beings. In this awareness, freedom arises not through control or domination, but through responsibility, presence, and ethical engagement. Each moment becomes a chance to create positive ripples, to act with compassion, and to deepen understanding, even as we navigate the web of cause and effect, even as we practice mindfulness, compassion, surrender, and presence. Life still presents challenges. The final part of our journey is an invitation to integrate all that we have explored, to live fully awake, aware, and free. This integration is not a single moment, but a continuous practice. It is the art of living with intention, awareness, and love, moment by moment, breath by breath. Imagine a tree in the forest. Its roots reach deep into the earth, anchoring it firmly. Its branches stretch toward the sky, open to sunlight and rain. It sways with the wind, bends under storms, grows steadily with patience. Its presence is both rooted and receptive. In the same way, a fully awake human life is rooted in awareness, anchored in understanding, yet open to the unfolding of each moment. We cultivate stability without rigidity, presence without clinging, wisdom without arrogance. Integration requires reflection. We take the lessons learned, impermanence, compassion, surrender, mindfulness, equanimity, non-attachment, awareness of cause and effect, and allow them to inform every action, thought, and interaction. This is the difference between theoretical understanding and embodied wisdom. To understand that life is impermanent is one thing. To live in awareness of impermanence every day is another. To know that compassion heals is one thing. To act from compassion in the midst of conflict is another. Integration is the bridge between knowing and being. We begin with ourselves. Each day presents opportunities to practice mindfulness in ordinary activities. Washing dishes, walking to work, preparing a meal, talking with a friend. These are all invitations to be fully present. Attention transforms the ordinary into the sacred. By holding awareness in each action, we cultivate a life that is awake, intentional, and alive. The mundane becomes a meditation. The simple becomes profound. Self-compassion, too, must be integrated. We have explored the importance of kindness toward ourselves, of speaking gently, of meeting our own suffering with awareness rather than judgment. This practice is essential because it provides the foundation for compassion toward others. A heart hardened by self-criticism cannot easily extend warmth outward. When we embrace ourselves fully, with patience and tenderness, we open the door to a life that radiates care, understanding, and love. Integration also means embracing impermanence fully. Change is not simply accepted in moments of meditation or reflection. It is observed in every interaction, every feeling, every circumstance. We notice the fleeting nature of experiences, the shifting qualities of relationships, the transient nature of our own bodies and thoughts. This awareness deepens our appreciation, softens our clinging, and cultivates gratitude for the present moment. The integration of surrender and flow is equally important. Life is unpredictable. Circumstances change, plans fail, people act unexpectedly. We practice flowing with the current, like a river moving around obstacles. We learn to bend like bamboo under storms, to let go of rigid expectations, to trust the unfolding of life. Surrender is not passivity. It is engagement without resistance, presence without grasping. It allows life to unfold fully while we remain steady and aware. The understanding of the web of cause and effect continues to guide action. Each choice is an opportunity to cultivate positive ripples. We act with intention, aware that our thoughts, words, and deeds shape our experience and the lives of those around us. This is not a burden, but a gift, the chance to participate consciously in the unfolding of life, to create harmony, to alleviate suffering, and to foster understanding. Integration also involves balancing effort and ease. Practice is necessary, yet striving must be tempered with gentleness. We do not force awareness or push ourselves into perfection. Instead, we cultivate habits gradually, with patience and presence. Each moment of mindfulness strengthens the capacity for attention. Each act of compassion reinforces the heart's openness. Each surrender to impermanence deepens peace. The path is steady, cumulative, and ongoing. We also integrate ethical conduct. Awareness alone is insufficient without action. Our understanding of interconnectedness, impermanence, and cause and effect must manifest in the way we live. Honesty, generosity, patience, and kindness are expressions of integrated wisdom. Ethical action is not rigid moralism, but a natural extension of awareness, a reflection of the deep understanding that our choices ripple through the world. As we integrate these teachings, we cultivate equanimity. The mind remains steady amidst joy and sorrow, praise and criticism, gain and loss. Equanimity does not erase feeling. It allows full presence without being overwhelmed. It is the calm within the storm, the clarity amid complexity. From this place, we can act with discernment, compassion, and insight. The integration of self-awareness, compassion, mindfulness, equanimity, surrender, and understanding of impermanence and karma leads to a profound sense of freedom. Freedom is not the absence of challenges, but the ability to meet them with clarity, presence, and wisdom. Freedom arises from recognizing that while we cannot control every outcome, we can shape our responses, our intentions, and our awareness. Integration also requires attention to relationships. Awareness and compassion are practiced not only in solitude, but in connection with others. Listening fully, speaking with kindness, acting with consideration, these practices extend the inner cultivation outward. We recognize the fragility and preciousness of each connection. Relationships are not possessions to be clutched, but living exchanges to be cherished, nurtured, and respected. Life itself becomes a meditation when integration is achieved. Ordinary moments, the touch of a hand, the sound of birdsong, the taste of a meal, the warmth of the sun are experienced fully. Awareness, presence, and compassion infuse each moment, transforming the mundane into the sacred. We live not in pursuit of some distant ideal, but in engagement with the reality of each breath, each step, each encounter. The final integration also includes gratitude. Recognizing impermanence, interconnection, and the ripples of our actions naturally cultivates appreciation. We see the countless causes that support our lives, the people, the natural world, the circumstances that sustain us. Gratitude is not merely a polite response. It is an acknowledgement of the richness of life, a recognition of the interconnected web in which we participate. Through this integrated practice, fear diminishes. We fear loss less because we understand impermanence. We fear failure less because we recognize the fluidity of identity and circumstance. We fear uncertainty less because we trust the flow of life. Freedom arises not from control, but from understanding, from awareness, from the alignment of thought, word, and deed with the principles of life we have explored. The path of integration is ongoing. It is not completed in a single moment, nor is it perfect. Mistakes will occur, attachments will resurface, emotions will arise. Yet each instance is an opportunity to practice. Each challenge is a doorway to deepen awareness, to cultivate compassion, to strengthen equanimity. The journey itself is the practice. The unfolding of life itself is the meditation. Finally, integration brings peace. A mind aware of impermanence, compassionate towards self and others, flowing with life, acting with intention, observing cause and effect, and present in each moment, finds rest. This peace is not dependent on circumstances. It arises from the cultivation of wisdom and compassion, from the alignment of our actions with understanding, from the embracing of life as it is. As we conclude this part of the journey, consider your own life. Where can awareness be deepened? Where can compassion be extended? Where can surrender be practiced? How can you flow with life, honor impermanence, act with intention, and integrate these principles into daily living? Each moment is an opportunity, each breath a teacher, each encounter a chance to awaken. By integrating these teachings fully, we live not merely to exist, but to thrive in awareness, to act with compassion, and to meet life with equanimity. Life becomes a practice, a meditation, a canvas of conscious choice. We discover the sacred in the ordinary, the extraordinary in the everyday, and freedom in the midst of impermanence. Integration also transforms our approach to challenges and suffering. Life presents difficulties not to punish us, but to awaken our attention, to call us to presence, and to reveal the patterns we carry within. Each moment of hardship is an opportunity to practice patience, compassion, and mindful awareness. By embracing difficulty with openness, we transform it from obstacle into teacher, from suffering into insight. Consider illness, for example. Pain and limitation naturally provoke resistance, fear, and frustration. Yet when approached with awareness and acceptance, illness becomes a teacher of presence. Each breath, each movement, each sensation is observed without clinging or aversion. We learn to inhabit the body fully, to care for ourselves gently, to witness impermanence firsthand. Through this mindful engagement, suffering is acknowledged but not amplified by resistance. Similarly, emotional pain loss, disappointment, grief can be transformed. When a loved one departs or a relationship ends, our first impulse is often to resist, to cling to what was, to wish circumstances were different. Yet the integrated practice invites us to feel fully, to acknowledge grief, to honor love, and simultaneously to observe impermanence. By embracing both the depth of feeling and the reality of change, we move through grief without being consumed by it. The heart softens, resilience emerges, and wisdom grows from the experience. Integration also deepens our understanding of interconnection. Our choices, thoughts, and actions do not exist in isolation. They ripple outward into the lives of others. Every act of kindness, every moment of awareness, every choice made with integrity generates unseen consequences. Likewise, our misunderstandings, judgments, or harmful behaviors ripple outward, affecting ourselves and those around us. Recognizing this interconnected web encourages ethical action, mindfulness, and compassion in every moment. One woman, reflecting on her habitual impatience with colleagues, realized that her frustration often escalated workplace tension. She began to pause before reacting, to breathe, and to respond with calm clarity. Over time, she observed the ripple effect. Relationships improved, stress diminished, collaboration deepened. By aligning awareness with action, she transformed not only her own experience, but the collective environment. Karma, observed mindfully, is both empowering and humbling, revealing our role in shaping reality. The integration of mindfulness with ethical living is essential. Awareness without action risks abstraction, detachment, or intellectualization. Ethical action without awareness risks rigidity, ego, or superficial compliance. When the two are combined, every interaction becomes a practice, every decision an expression of wisdom, and every choice an opportunity to generate benefit. Integration, therefore, is not only inward-focused but outward-acting, blending insight with compassionate engagement in the world. Patience is cultivated through integration. Life unfolds at its own pace. Change, growth, healing, and insight cannot be rushed. Every moment requires presence, every action requires attention, and every consequence unfolds according to natural laws. By aligning our pace with life's rhythm, we reduce frustration, deepen understanding, and allow clarity to emerge organically. Patience becomes the companion of mindfulness, sustaining effort without harshness, presence without force. Integration also requires self-inquiry. We continually examine our intentions, motives, and habitual responses. We ask ourselves, are my actions rooted in clarity or distraction? In compassion or aversion? In awareness or automaticity? This reflection ensures that integration is dynamic, responsive, and alive rather than static or ritualistic. It allows continual refinement of practice, deepening alignment between inner wisdom and outward action. Through ongoing practice, the boundaries between meditation and life begin to dissolve. Eating becomes a meditation, walking becomes a meditation, speaking becomes a meditation. Awareness permeates ordinary activities, transforming them into opportunities for presence, attention, and understanding. The integration of insight and action allows life itself to become the vehicle of awakening. Gratitude, too, is integrated fully in this stage. Recognizing the impermanence and interconnectedness of all things fosters appreciation for the present moment. We notice the support, care, and contributions of countless beings and circumstances that sustain life. Each breath, each interaction, each experience is an occasion for gratitude. This practice softens the heart, enriches the perception of life, and generates positive ripples outward. Integration also deepens joy. Joy is no longer dependent solely on external circumstances or possessions, but arises naturally from awareness, presence, and ethical action. The simple act of noticing the warmth of sunlight, the sound of birdsong, or the kindness of a friend becomes profoundly nourishing. In this way, joy is cultivated as an internal state, resilient in the face of impermanence and change. Even ordinary suffering, when approached with integration, can reveal profound insight. Anger, disappointment, or frustration are observed, acknowledged, and allowed to exist without clinging or aversion. Through this mindful engagement, the emotions serve as mirrors, revealing habitual patterns and opportunities for growth. Pain becomes a teacher, challenges become guides, and the heart learns to embrace life fully. Regardless of circumstances, the integration of surrender, flow, mindfulness, compassion, ethical action, awareness of impermanence, and understanding of cause and effect creates a profound equilibrium. We respond to life rather than react. We act from clarity rather than habit. We engage with presence rather than distraction. This integrated state is not static. It is dynamic, fluid, and adaptive, allowing us to navigate the complexity of life with skill, resilience, and openness. In practical terms, integration manifests in consistent daily practice. Meditation, mindful observation, reflection on impermanence, and acts of kindness all reinforce one another. Each moment of attention strengthens the capacity for presence. Each deliberate action reinforces awareness of cause and effect. Each compassionate gesture deepens understanding of interconnectedness. Over time, the layers of practice accumulate, embedding wisdom into every aspect of life. Integration also cultivates equanimity. External events, praise, criticism, gain, and loss are observed without attachment or aversion. The mind remains steady, the heart remains open, and responses are measured and intentional. Equanimity does not imply indifference. It implies clarity and presence, allowing full engagement without being overwhelmed by circumstance. It is the balance of wisdom and compassion in action. Relationships, under the influence of integration, transform. We approach others with awareness, compassion, and patience. Conflicts are met with understanding rather than reactivity. Love is expressed fully, without clinging or expectation. The integrated practitioner recognizes the impermanence and fragility of relationships, yet engages wholeheartedly, offering presence and care without grasping. Integration is also reflected in the body. Mindful attention to physical sensations, posture, and movement deepens awareness and presence. The body becomes a vehicle for consciousness rather than an object of frustration or control. Through mindful engagement with the body, we cultivate groundedness, stability, and clarity, enhancing our ability to navigate mental, emotional, and relational challenges. The culmination of integration is freedom, the freedom to live fully awake, to act with intention, to love with presence, and to navigate impermanence with ease. This freedom is not an abstract concept, but an embodied state, realized in daily life, in breath, in action, in interaction. It is the living expression of all that has been cultivated: mindfulness, compassion, surrender, awareness, patience, ethical conduct, and presence. As we reflect on this final part of the journey, consider your own life. How can you integrate awareness, compassion, presence, and ethical action into every moment? How can you practice equanimity, patience, and surrender in daily life? How can you honor impermanence while engaging fully? Each choice is an opportunity to embody the teachings, to create ripples of benefit, to awaken in the midst of ordinary existence. Through this integration, life itself becomes the path. Each moment is a chance to practice, each breath a meditation, each action a teacher. We are both the students and the practitioners, continuously learning, refining, and expressing the wisdom we have cultivated. Integration is the art of living awake, fully engaged, and profoundly aware. The journey of awareness, mindfulness, compassion, and equanimity is not linear nor finite. Each day offers new challenges, new lessons, and new opportunities to apply what we have learned. The integration of all teachings ensures that the practice is dynamic, responsive, and alive. We continue to cultivate presence, kindness, insight, and surrender, moment by moment, breath by breath, action by action. In the end, the goal is not perfection, but presence. Not control, but freedom. Not permanence, but awareness of impermanence. Not accumulation, but integration. By embodying these principles, life becomes a continuous meditation, a seamless practice, and a field of awakening. We discover that every action, every choice, every moment carries the potential for wisdom, compassion, and freedom.